welcome. You, please do.
Before I begin, I just wanted to, I tried to save on paper, so I only made 5 copies. Because they're all spread out. So, you already kind of know.
I know nothing.
Here, maybe between.
Maybe I just,
Yeah.
they,
You know all this, okay?
yeah, I don't need it.
All right.
So I can have the original for the file. Thank you.
Okay. This is supplemental to the pretty pictures we have in the other.
Well, I know the facility was more like a drive-by. You were in and out before. I'm like, wait, I wanted to show you that. So I thought, I'll take pictures.
Well, the reason for that is we only had one new person, and we thought it would be useful to drive around and give them an overview of all
No,
the
I totally
facilities.
understand. So I figured I'd just take some pictures and then.
All right, we're going to start today's meeting with rec.
Okay.
You're on.
I am here to present our capital improvement plan for the 1920, I believe, year. And I'm not sure what order you have. It goes to the.
How about if I give you the order?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the first one is the vehicle and equipment
Okay.
account, which is just a kind of an overview and a summary of what you have and what you're going to purchase.
Okay, I did see on the U drive that you went 1 through 6, and the 6th item was the utility vehicle. So do you want that? So the pictures I gave you kind of go in that order as well. Do you want me to do
Let me tell you
these?
the order that I have them in for the
Okay.
packets. Okay, the first is the equipment listing.
Mm-hmm.
The second is the shelter. The
Yep.
third is the signage. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth is the skate park.
Mm-hmm.
The fifth is the splash pad.
Mm-hmm.
And the sixth is the utility truck.
Okay.
And Greg is going to talk about the parking improvements later on.
Okay. So what you're looking at in the picture that I gave you, because there really wasn't the picture, I just did it on the equipment page, but you can see our rec van right here. I would like to continue placing a 15-passenger bus into the capital reserve. Our current bus was purchased in 2007, and I don't want to go a year without a bus, so I want to make sure we have a bus being purchased and continuing on.
When do you expect the purchase to be of the, when are you looking? You're
I
looking
spoke
for the
to-
page 6 item now?
Yes, I have 2021 as a purchase
Right, but-
date.
Oh, that's the crisis. Okay.
It is utilized so much more now that we have full-time position at the Sunrise Sunset facility. Kim Tilton does an amazing job, and whereas before that adult programming was maybe one trip a month, just because of time and the ability, she's going out at least once a week, if not 2 times a week, for bus trips, and they are selling out. And then with just the increased capacity of kids in our summer camp program, we utilize the bus and even have to lease another 15-passenger van during the summer just to accommodate the buses. So we are in need of another van, which I might be, that's, I just don't want to, I want to make sure we have this vehicle being purchased again, because what's important about this particular vehicle is it has a handicap accessibility.
Okay. And the current one, I gather, doesn't.
No, this one does, but
Okay.
this will probably go off the road in several years. Auto Excellence gave me you have a couple more years on that, baby. This is, I believe, his quote.
So are you planning on replacing or having,
Well, in the past, what's happened is
Two.
we've always had a van.
yeah,
And when one comes new in, the other one can stay on the road for a couple of years.
okay.
And so there's a couple of
So
years.
two.
We've gotten to that point where we could use 2.
Yeah.
Right now, we only have the one, and we're leasing another van in the summer just to
Okay, okay.
handle the capacity, but I don't ever want to have and the one we release in the summer doesn't have handicap accessible. So I want to make sure this van, or this style of van,
Oh, so we're leasing a second one,
in the summer we have been,
okay.
just to meet the needs.
And this would make that you wouldn't go to 3, you're just saying,
I would this one would eventually replace this van once it is moved off the road.
be 2 for a while.
okay. And a question, if I can, I don't know the financials of what revenues you're bringing in from the programs. I know the concept was that should be at least enough to cover the cost of the programs, but not the staff. And there was some question that maybe you could generate some money to be a self-contribution to the capital fund. Has that happened yet, or?
Well, an additional van that we need might be using those funds, but for since this has always been a capital and reserve purchase, I was just keeping it in the capital reserves because it meets such a requirement for all of the
Right, but
community.
from an overall financial basis, and I don't know your specific revenue and expense numbers, if the revenue you generate from programs exceeds the cost of those programs, is that excess now given back to the general fund of the town?
No, it is put in back into the revolving account to purchase things such as capital items, and you'll see that going forward when we move to the splash pad.
Right, but we don't have so you were saying we have a capital fund set up for recreation. There's also a revolving
Yes.
fund that has a balance.
Yes.
And then who is responsible for approving what the revolving fund excess is used for? Is that you? Is that Steve?
That would be me going in, and depending on the price of the item, for example, then it would have to go through proper approval, and you'd have to do some resolutions based on the amount of the item being purchased.
Okay, and do you know what the balance of the revolving fund is?
I pulled up the numbers.
The only reason I'm asking, Amy, is I'm just trying to figure out how much of this is capital dependent versus how much may be able to be self-funded from the recreation fees.
Right now, we are at, just make sure. I have not confirmed this with Lisa, but this is what I pulled off of Munis, was $445,169. But you have to understand that we have to keep our current year expenditure budget in there. We can't go over that. So our current budget is around 300 and, let me pull that up. I think we're at 305,000, so we have to keep that in there. We can't spend that money because we need to have it moving forward to the next year. So there's an availability of about $135,000 of revolving money that could be used for expenditures.
Okay, and that's because the program revenues are exceeding the actual
Yes.
cost of the
Yes.
programs, with the exception of the staff costs, right?
Yes.
Somehow we need to sort of figure that in, not as a separate pool of money, but as the general available pool that REC has to, okay.
And a
So
lot of that money has been being saved for other program costs, which you'll see in a few minutes,
Okay.
where we're going to be allocating some of that revolving money for capital. Subsidizing, actually.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, let me just get back to my page now. So that is the van. The next item we have, I believe, is the shelter, which is a new item on the capital reserve, or capital plan. Currently, and if you looked at page 2 of the additional documentation I gave you, that is the condition of our skateboard park. We will be utilizing revolving funds to resurface that skateboard park, which equates to about anywhere between $8,000 and $11,000. That could have been put in for capital improvement, but I didn't. I pulled it out and said revolving could do this. And when we do the revolving, use the funds for that, we are going to turn that resurface into both basketball and pickleball. because pickleball is the latest craze and there's a huge demand for pickleball. We've had a population come in and try to set up on our basketball court, but they said it was too hot and it was just not in the best condition when you compare it to other areas or other towns or cities. So they are now moving out of Newmarket to go participate in pickleball. And they've even came in and gave me a picture of something that they wanted, which was a huge facility. And I said, well, okay, that's quite large. So in trying to accommodate the need for a pickleball court, if we do that, I also know at the same time we have an incredible need for shade or shelter at Leo Landro Field. So I put in this shelter as for a future plan to, it's definitely an investment, but it would definitely serve the need for shade and a rain shelter when it does happen. Originally, when the community center was built, this was supposed to be an entirely enclosed structure, and that was always the plan. We've just never got there. So the two pictures below just kind of show you how our camp kids will surround. Had I known I was going to put this through, I would have taken more pictures, but they surround the building in the summer and sit on the rocks rather than actually go out on the basketball court to play or sit on the grass. The other picture that you're looking at is of the carnival. I wanted you to see the shade line. So the picture on the top was taken at 10 a.m. in the morning, and the picture on the far right on the bottom was taken at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock. So there's never really any shade on this basketball court. And it's an ideal location for pickleball, and we could get 3 pickleball courts going horizontal. But my fear is once we resurface it, no one is going to come because it's just too hot. It's just too hot of an area for anyone to stay for very long. No one comes to play basketball during the day. They wait till the evening. And the kids, it's not as active as it could be. They love basketball, but most of the time they're trying to find the shade, and they intermittently go out and play. So I wanted to place it into the plan for now. If we should raise more revolving funds in the near future, and we purchase the things, then obviously in the following years I would try to subsidize that with revolving funds. But as of right now, I don't have that earmarked.
And is there some policy that guides you in what the excess of the revolving fund can be used for?
I know that the revolving funds are mainly used to increase programming and allow us to offer more services, and trying to not use capital improvement, capital reserve funds when necessary. Okay. So it's to get to that point. But right now I wanted to place this item in there as, so that capital reserve would pay for part of this. But eventually, and even though I laid it down for 6 years, my hope is I will raise some more money in the upcoming years. I can't guarantee that, but I'm at least placing it in there for now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it began when we ended up saying that the recreation department should be self-funding except for the salaries, and that was several years ago, and then we started on that process. Yeah. And it's been a success. I'm not sure anybody at the time thought about, gee, we have more money than programs. How is that excess administered? Okay. And I understand how it's being used today, as if you are in need of something, you may have discussions with the town administrator, et cetera, on what to do. But I don't know if a portion of the excess, if it exists, should be help fund the capital account to build that for the future. More technical. It's not.
It is. Since we started this, we've had the splash pad has been something we've been trying to save for.
Okay.
The next item is the skateboard park.
The sign.
Oh, the sign. I don't have a picture for that one because we don't have, it's not a replacement, or you're not looking at that. This is just came to mind that we at the rec department are often called upon for information in regards to many things. There was a time where we used to be able to place sandwich boards at the corner of Terrace Drive where the police department needs, and that is now, we are not allowed to, it's basically against code, and so in order to us to, work with the code, we don't put the sandwich boards out. We do get complaints from parents and community members. We don't know when these events are. Even though social media has really triggered the ability to advertise, they still relied heavily on those signs as they drove by. Putting a sign on that corner would also increase visibility for those people who may not even know we're here. We get a lot of people who aren't even aware that the community center is down there. My thought is, if the rec department managed what was going on there, and other associations in the town needed to place things on there, we would be able to post that for them. If you look down here, I put it in for 3 years, and that the revolving account would cover the installation. Because I see it's as such a town need, not just for recreation, just for other programs that aren't the rec department, and we'd be happy to post those items too. The youth association, soccer signups, those types of things that aren't necessarily the rec, I can see us plugging out, and we're controlling that, the ability to put those things down. Any of the community events, or if it's voting day or something like that, I can see it, because it's more visible than what we have on the town hall, because there's more traffic going by. And I was interested in the aesthetic look of it, and you can see some samples of what other cities have done. There's various different types based on, how many lines, what's the LED lighting, how many rows, and such. So I put a few down there. They all averaged anywhere between $18,000 and $27,000. So I chose a $20,000 item, and then the $5,000 is for installation, which I had said the enterprise fund would cover that.
Okay.
And because it wasn't, I see it being used for more community things than just recreation, is why I put it under capital reserve.
Okay.
All right. The next item is the skateboard park.
Are there any questions? Let me just ask, I'm assuming I'd hear a question.
Where, again, on 108?
Where we used to put the sandwich boards is the corner of Terrace Drive and 108. It's right on the corner where the police department. I did speak to Chief True, and I sent him a sign, and at first he was concerned about how it would look in front of the police department. I said he would have final say on what it would look like. He did not respond back in an email, but I did show it to him, and again, he just said I'd want to see it.
So the zoning issue with the sandwich sign would not be an issue with this sign?
Well, that's a good question.
Can we maybe postpone discussion of code issues? We have to have it reviewed by our code department to see if it's compliant.
Yes.
Because we just passed some new signage regulations, and this particular sign is not identified as being something that's permitted currently, but we're looking at it.
And this would have to be approved by the town in its budget to actually purchase the signs and go ahead with that, though this is a request for it. It's not something you can decide after yourself.
No, it would have to be, yes, totally. Next item is the skateboard park, and I wanted you to see the current condition of the skateboard park. I just have to get to that page. I have it out of order on mine.
The third in your packet,
Yeah.
Amy?
Yeah.
Third.
So here's an example of where we would be subsidizing the skateboard park with revolving There's also some grants out there. If we didn't get the grant, we would do some fundraising efforts or just subsidize it in from revolving. I wanted to place it in capital reserve. I believe it was in capital reserve many years ago when it was installed and it was purchased. It is approximately 18 years old. It gets a lot of use. And the sample of the one you see over here is from American Ramp Company. They're a national brand. The one that we have now, we went with a local company and they're out of business. I don't know, Greg, you might want to elaborate a little on the condition of the skateboard park.
Well, I tell you, the skateboard park is in rough condition. We have some rotting wood areas, a lot of the plastic or sheet goods that the actual riding surfaces have popped up off the planes, and it's in pretty rough shape.
It's been in rough shape for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's due for replacement for sure.
And what you don't see in these pictures, unfortunately, I didn't realize they were so dark. The one on the bottom left, there's actually a hole in that far corner. The one with the fence, there's missing a 2x4 going across, but behind there's missing planks, and so it's a hole, and animals tend to go in there. So, and when on the top left, you can't really see it, but it's buckling in some areas. The kids still use it. I had thought of pulling it, but it's definitely something that would upset the community if we pulled it. So that's why I have it down for 2 years. So I'm not sure I have all the money, in addition to doing the splash pad, to redo that without some help from Capital Reserve.
Total cost being the 75, and then
That was quoted from the American Ramp Company, and that's kind of a sample of what it would look like. Many of the skateboard parks out there are using full concrete, and they're really, really expensive. We're talking around $250,000 to $300,000 for that same size. I believe Stratum's putting one in, and it's $283,000 for a concrete ramp. So this one has served us well, but it does need replaced. And the items over here from American Ramp Company, I have a little blurb of what they kind of said their Pro Series ramps are, so I just left that for you guys to read. And we obviously would go to bid, but it's just to give you an example of what ramps could look like now. Again, this was a local company in Maine, and they made it locally, and they are now out of business. Any questions? Okay.
okay.
Now we're moving to
Splash pad.
the splash pad. So, thank you so much for approving this last year. This page that you're looking in my supplemental packet was the cover page for our LWCF grant that we applied for last year. And if you flip to the next page, we were approved on a state level for a match of $199,407. We are requesting to build this next year, should this go through. At this point right now, I have spoken to the members at the state that it's still in federal review process. I keep asking him what's the chances, and he says you're at a 98% chance. We have a few little stipulations. Greg, do you want to elaborate on the stipulations that are being?
One of them that we're dealing with is the actual property is school property. And so part of the requirements of this grant is that the town actually does a perpetual lease on the property, and should the school take it back at some point, then a equivalent green space has to be created for the rec department someplace else. So right now, that's in our attorney's hands to look at the wording of that. We've submitted the wording that they're looking for, so I'm still waiting to get something back on that. That's probably the biggest thing that we have to deal with when it comes down to trying to finish up that grant. It's just getting that wording. And then we had another issue regarding the way we were going to finance, but that's all been addressed. Can't think we've got anything else hanging out there.
I think that is the main concern, is we need to survey it in order to, that was that part, and the lease, just to
Does
confirm.
the lease agreement have to be for consideration? So, I mean, the school isn't gonna actually, or the other way around, the town isn't gonna actually lease for fee the property. It's a cooperative agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, it's a requirement that they
Protocol.
have that says the town has to, or city, whoever gets this grant has to have control of the space.
Right.
Plus, there wouldn't be a money payment for the lease, but the payment
No,
would
but-
be in equal green space should the.
Yeah, they call it a 6F boundary, and anytime you use federal land and water conservation funds, you have to assure that that property will forever remain as recreation and open space. And if you decide to take it away in any way, then you have to come up with an equal amount of land elsewhere. And that became an issue recently when we were looking at the improvements to the waterfront park, because that was also purchased with LWCF funds. So the National Park Service is very particular about it in asking communities to assure that the land that's acquired is forever going to be recreation lands.
At one point, that land was LWCF, but there was a clause that if you didn't renew it in 25 years, then it wouldn't be considered LWCF land. That clause was never renewed. That would have been done sometime in the late 80s. It just never happened, and so now we're putting it back into LWCF. So there was one time, and the school did, in the process that when we went to fill out the grant, the school did write a letter that they would enter into an agreement should we receive the grant. So that we've already received that letter from the school board, that they would enter into the agreement, and that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. But they want it to be more legalized than just we will enter it.
And there's certain verbiage that they're really looking for in that. And, so our attorney, John Redigan, is looking at that and the requirements that are set.
Well, I'm assuming that's in order to be in sync with the municipal law governing that situation. I mean, in theory, it sounds like it's almost an easement, but it's
It's a federal requirement.
it's
under
a
the-
federal requirement that
Under the
says you
Land and
must
Water
lease it
Conservation
and
Code.
have this process in place.
It's a way to protect that. They're gonna donate or provide a grant for a given amount of money. They wanna make sure it's
Used for that purpose, forever.
yeah.
Used for recreational purposes, yes, correct. And if you look down at the project funds under 1920, so this is an immediate project. Once we get word, we will start the process. And we budgeted down, as you'll see how the enterprise fund is $100,000 is going towards this purchase for the match. So that is what I was talking to you about, why some of these other items I'm putting in for capital improvement for a period of time until we can put more money back into the revolving account. But this, as you can see, would wipe out $100,000 of that money that I already talked to you about. We'll be utilizing about $22,000 of impact fees will go towards this. The match is $199,407 from LWCF, and only $77,000 is coming out of capital improvement. And if you think about the price of the whole item, that's where we're trying to gear our revolving funds, because this is a major need for the town. And it does include, it's only on one page, but last year you had 2 pages. One was the restrooms and the splash pad. So if you look at the picture, it includes on the form that you have, it has the bathroom in the far left. And that's not the actual look of the bathroom, but that was just kind of a rendering that Greg said it would somewhat look like, correct?
Where's that picture, Amy?
It's actually, if you're looking right at the
Oh, okay, I see it
It's in
now.
the little corner. I just
Yes.
downsized it a little
Yep.
bit. This other picture that is in the front that was given to the, for the front cover of the grant, didn't actually have the bathroom in here. It was just kind of an idea of the size of the pad.
Great.
So, yay,
Yay.
we're very close. It hasn't been publicly announced. I've been told any day now they'll let us know.
So the project is really, it's not depending on all the other monies, it's depending on the $199,000 grant to go for.
Yes.
Yeah, but it seems to me essentially, if the money that's excess in the enterprise fund is being used primarily for capital investment, okay, then at the moment, because you have two funds, you're choosing how to use money from each of the funds. Where, let's say if the excess over the cost of programs was 80% or 90% or 100% were put into the capital fund, you'd have that one fund and then decide your priorities. Here you're just saying, where do I take the money from, because I have two options.
I wanted to congratulate you, Amy, for getting the grant. I used to work under the Land and Water Conservation Fund when I worked for the state, and they're very competitive. There's not many grants that get awarded, so I'm sure they were very impressed with the package. And
Thank you.
You should
And
be very proud of yourself.
it was a team effort. Greg was very much involved in the process as well. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. So, and you have approved this through for the last 2 or 3 years, so some of that money's already been earmarked for it. And then the last one is new. You have not seen this one before. Because this particular item is not used for making money so much, but it's a utility vehicle need. We have in our inventory right now 2 vehicles, the bus that you already saw, which is we've had for a while, and this cargo van. The cargo van is used all the time. So if you want to look at the supplemental piece that I gave you, these are all the things that we use this cargo van for. Mary Main Street, anytime we move an event to a different location, such as Mary Main Street, the Giving Tree, the Lamprey River Splash and Dash, Mother-Son Dance, the Daddy-Daughter Dance, all of the arts in the park, we have to have a vehicle to move the equipment. The van has been very good to us, but it is being pulled out of inventory at the end of September due to rust at the bottom. It is in bad shape, and we definitely need a vehicle. The one thing our cargo van could not do, though, was pull our trailers. So what you see on the supplemental piece is 3 different trailer items that we have access to, but haven't been able to use because we don't have a vehicle that allows us to tow. So we've only been able to use the cargo van to move equipment, whereas if we had the ability to tow, we could utilize these other pieces in addition to moving our kayaks, which you can see on the last page. We have a trailer and kayak, but right now I have to pay somebody to move our kayaks because we don't have a towing vehicle. And unfortunately, every time we try to use Public Works, their hours, they don't have the time or the staffing to load 11 to 15 kayaks and move them. And we're now storing kayaks at the new Schottmeyer Park, Piscassic, and Shanda Park. And so we have 22 kayaks in inventory, plus 7 paddle boards. So being able to actually use this trailer would be great, and we just need a vehicle. So when the cargo van was going to go off, I said, and when you look at that particular page, I said we would rather have a truck that we could load the smaller items and we can use them for quick moves. And then if we were having to load for a large event, we would actually be able to use the 2 trailers that you're seeing here that were built and made for moving equipment for large community events. But right now, they're just sitting and used as storage. The black trailer there has 20 mountain bikes. that I can't move anywhere without hiring somebody with a truck to move it. So we haven't been able to really offer mountain biking as a program because we don't really have access to any trails nearby. The kids would actually have to go to the, we've tried, but I'd rather not. I'd rather take them to a trail that's meant for mountain biking. But we could also empty those mountain bikes, and now we have a very large unit to move equipment. When we only have the cargo van, we're making 2 to 3 to 4 trips just to move all the equipment from one location to another. And it's not an easy task. It's labor intensive.
How, just a general question, what percentage of the year do you think you'd be using the van for programmatic work? It would strike me as if we have pickup trucks that can attach trailers, whether it's public works or et cetera, there may be vehicles that have to be scheduled, but we wouldn't necessarily need an independent vehicle for recreation if it was only going to be used 20 or 30% of the time.
We use, especially on the weekends when public work isn't working, most of our community events are on the weekend. I've actually had to rent U-Hauls in the past just to be able to move the equipment. During the day, that cargo van was probably used 2 or 3 times in the summer because a lot of times we're moving equipment to different locations.
Yeah, the only question I would have, and I'm not sure we can answer it, but the thought that says if we have, pickup trucks in wastewater and sewer and public works and emergency services, and if we have them in various places, there may be an issue that scheduling may be able to save 1 or 2 trucks out of having 6 different pockets of trucks.
I had thought about that, but when I really thought of it logistically, I can see us being the last priority, and so right now I'm using my own vehicle to get stuff, and it's not easy. And so
Gotcha.
I just think with all that we do, having one utility truck would really, really be helpful.
Okay. And you're rating that as an urgent need?
I wrote it as an urgent need, and we would purchase a used vehicle. We don't need a brand spanking new one. We just want something that is going to do the job.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Any last questions?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Did I need to stay for any of Greg's facility pieces?
There is some write-ups in there about the recreation paving project and the roundhouse, so you might want copies of those, Amy,
Okay.
for your,
Are you next?
As
likely
far
or
as I'm
not.
concerned, it's up to you guys.
No, I'm a supplemental to the supplement.
All right, well, if I can say anything, the parking and paving area of the rec department is in dire straits. That's what we had several accident reports of kids tripping on chunks of road. So just giving you my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Sorry to be a little off schedule.
Are we off schedule?
I think,
Wait, we have 15 minutes on?
yeah. Okay, well, you can get in touch with you later.
Right.
Quick question, Sean, just a quick, we got this last night, which was the plan that Underwood put together under your,
It's something I've been working with Underwood on, yes. Which,
is that matched to this, or are they
it's pretty
two
close, there's some dollar amounts that are a little, all the projects are on there, yes.
Okay,
There's
so,
been a change in the direction of the CIP, because I gave a presentation on the 20-year CIP plan for the water department to the town council, which basically had everything set up in 5-year chunks to bite off those $23 million worth of projects that need to get done for the water department. Based on a new funding partner that is out there, the new drinking water groundwater fund, which was a $270 million settlement with Exxon.
Okay.
That is for water projects. And the town council made an indication that they wanted to do more projects now because there's ability to get funding for grants, and also the interest rates right now are very low. So there's a substantial savings that could be had if we do the projects now rather than wait. For example, I submitted 3 projects this year to the Drinking Water Fund, and I actually got 25% grant on 2 out of the 3 projects. So it's kind of a big change in direction of how we're doing this,
And
which is,
how do you see, yeah, I mean, you're an independent source with your own revenue stream, et cetera. We have it, we appreciate the presentation. I don't think the committee has ever challenged significantly what your plans were, you're
Yeah.
saying.
well, it's been a big change and a big scurry for me to try and get numbers and try and progress with what the
Town council.
council is charged to do, to look
Okay,
at.
and so as we go through this, the reason I brought up this is, I don't know how best, this is not 2 separate documents, it's more
No.
of just a slight timing or direction difference?
Yes.
If you can explain that as we go through, rather than have to,
The first thing, it is important for the water department that for capital projects and for anything the water department does, all the monies come from water users. Does not come from the tax base. So that's an important thing to remember.
We'll do wastewater first, Sean, or water?
I think we're in the water, we might as well just
Okay.
dive into it.
So let me just give everybody the reference.
And I recommend that we start with the projects that are actually putting money into the capital reserves for the water,
So we
which is
have
only
Bay
2
Road.
items.
Bay Road, we have Bennett,
Yeah.
McIntosh and Tucker, Moody Point Water Main, Tucker Well Development. So which
Yep.
one do you want to start with?
What page number?
I
Can
want
we-
to find out what project you want to
Can we start with the trucks
Sure.
first?
Yep.
And then I would recommend that we go towards the storage, because those are the 2 items where we're requesting to
Yep.
take money and put them into capital reserve.
Okay, so the water department trucks are in here. Page 31, thank you. No, that's wastewater. Sorry.
And this is wastewater, yeah.
Just bear with us for a minute,
Yep.
please. Thank you.
That's fine.
35.
Bay Road, Bennett, Sewell, Tucker, Moody Point, New Road, South Main Street, Water Department. Okay. Sean, aren't the prices the same between the water
The
and the
prices
sewer?
are the same,
Okay,
yes.
so if we go to page 31.
So
and we do-
ideally,
It's the same, it's just a 50% of it,
Yes,
we pay
the-
for wastewater, 50% for water.
there's 1 water truck dedicated to water. The rest are shared between the water and sewer department. The water pickup is a 2004 pickup, which we've been evaluating every year, even though it reached its 12th year, which is typically a replacement. We look at it every year and see if it can go another year, rather than, we just don't want to buy a truck just to buy a truck.
Page 31?
Page 31.
Okay, gotcha. I see.
So,
2005.
the water
Item
truck,
5.
we are going to evaluate it. It's going to go to Auto Excellence. It could get replaced this year. If Auto Excellence says it can go another year without a lot of investment, we will keep it another year.
What number is the water truck?
Number 5, I think,
Number 5 on the
That's the big
list.
one.
Number 5,
on page 31.
So,
the water sewer drain.
Is that right?
no, it's a
No.
Waterford pickup.
Okay, so what, you said 2004.
Yes.
That's
There's
why I
a water
chose it.
sewer Ford 2009 that was acquired. Is that a mistake?
No. You must be looking at the sewer. Is there a sewer pickup at the top?
Yep.
Okay, you're looking at the sewer one.
Okay, we don't have the,
We don't have
Okay.
the water
we don't have
department.
the water one.
Okay. All right. Well, it's basically the same as the sewer one, except there's a water pickup and there's a sewer pickup. And the
We're
water
missing a
pickup,
page,
We're missing a page, and we'll
Okay.
get
or we're
that to
missing
you.
an asset.
okay.
It's also a Ford.
Yes, it's a Ford. It's 2004. Otherwise, see, there's one truck that's dedicated for the sewer, and there's one Ford pickup dedicated to the water.
Okay, this is, you're talking about the water.
Well, yes. And then there's actually another truck that, the 2007, which is the second one down, will be due for replacement in 2019 on the plan. We'll be evaluating that pickup to see if that will have to get replaced. Otherwise, all the trucks are in good shape. The last one, the water sewer drain VACON, which is shared by the Water Department, Sewer Department, and Public Works Department. As you remember last year, instead of buying a new one, we sent it out and had it rehabbed for $152,000 rather than buying one that cost $330,000. And that came back and the truck's working very well.
Is that the asset number 5?
Yes. Otherwise, it's the same amount of money that's been put every year for trucks.
Well, when we, just to that, if we've worked on the truck and extended its useful life, I know we acquired it in 2004.
Yep.
But does that then change the replacement cost of 216 now should be updated to some future date?
Yes, on the biggest part is it will be updated to the cost, but we had more money left in the account because we were putting money aside for that drain, so we don't need to put additional money away, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I understand, but as far as listing in an asset next year, you would end up saying, it doesn't have to be, if I'm looking at item 5, it says the replacement year would be 2016, and was acquired in 2000.
Yes, the replacement year, yes, that should get
We
changed.
should put a
Yes.
refurb as
Yes.
of,
Yes,
So
we
what should
will
that
give
be?
a different number to that.
You'll update it next year, is what you're saying?
Yes, I will update it next year.
and then are we missing a page of water assets?
There is a page
Yes,
missing.
but it's identical except
Okay.
for the
Well,
water pickup that we,
yeah, it's a little different. It's a little different. It's not a lot different. The total set aside is actually $14,002 for the water.
okay, and I'll get that out to the committee as soon as I can.
Okey-doke. Any other questions on this page and the other page?
The other money that I'm actually requesting to be moved into capital reserves project is the, for storage for water equipment.
What's the other one? Is that also a water equipment storage? Is that a sharing of two departments?
It's a sharing of two departments,
Okay.
yes.
So the water piece would be the same. I don't have a copy of the water one here
Okay.
either.
Do we have a wastewater one though?
Yeah,
We do.
it's
On page
50,000
37?
Yeah.
Of our packet.
of your packet.
But it's the same cost?
It's the
50/50
same cost,
sharing?
it's a sharing. So in other words, what has happened is, we're trying to close down the water treatment facility on Packers Falls Road, because it's not gonna be used again. It's not gonna produce water, and it's not a productive space for the water and sewer department. So when we built the wastewater department, we've been moving all the personnel down to the wastewater department to make it into one location to consolidate costs. So we're losing storage at the water treatment plant. We also have storage, we have stuff stored outside down at the Bennett well, and we need place to store all these valves and equipment. And so the best thought is to consolidate the water and sewer. The sewer side has stuff stored everywhere. It has pumps stored at pumping stations that shouldn't be. It has stuff stored outside down at the Bennett well. What has happened since we constructed the new wastewater treatment plant is that we've lost a lot of storage because of a lot of the spaces we use for chemical rooms, electrical rooms, so we lost a lot of storage space to try and make things work. We were trying to build a storage space with the money within the project, but there just wasn't enough money in the project to do that. So what we're proposing here is to take 50,000 from the water, 50,000 from the sewer, and construct a 30 by 40 garage, which would hold a lot of the equipment and organize all of the
And where
equipment
would that be located?
at the wastewater treatment plant. So everything will be in one central location.
Okay.
All right. So I just want to give an overview of the projects, and we can start with whatever project you choose for the water. Like I said earlier, I've been working on a 20-year capital improvement plan for the water department. Why 20 years?
Right, I just want to make mention of one thing, so it's on the same page. The other sheets that we have on wastewater list the assets, but if you look down at the bottom, there's no request for 1920, and that's why Sean is saying, let's look at the, so pages 32, 33, 34, 35 are not asking, at least our page numbers,
Yes, they're not asking for any money to go into capital reserve. All
for
it's,
this year. He's just listing the assets that are being associated with it. If you look at our 32, 33,
so
34.
in the past, and for the people that have been on the board for a while, we've been setting money aside every year towards projects to try and do projects and pay for them out of cash, or blend some with cash and some with bonding. What's happening now is we're seeing a very good chance of getting grant funds. And we're looking at a very good chance of getting at least 25% grant funds on every project that we put forward. If I step back and say, how did we get here? The first thing we did is we went out and why do 20-year program? Well, we just did a water and wastewater build-out study which covers 20 years. We just did an asset management plan that covers 50 years, that looks at all your assets. So we decided the best thing to do was to look at a 20-year window on what our build-out study is. So what you got sent by Diane the other night is a reflection of what that 20-year cost is for the projects. And if you actually look at those projects within that list, that's the cost of the project to do it in that year.
Okay, so we should move off these sheets at this point?
Well, I'm just giving an overview. So
Okay, I
if you were to look at it, yes, go
I
ahead.
have one
sorry.
question on your assets. Your boiler in 1969, supposed to be replaced this year?
I'm actually going to the town council, that's on the wastewater, not the water.
Yeah.
I'm going to the town council to replace that right now because we had the 6,000 gallon oil tank that actually supplies oil to that.
Yeah.
Sprung a leak, and the DES made us remove the tank, so I have no fuel to actually run that boiler. That boiler is also, of course, 1969, and it is too big for what, we used to use it in our process.
Yep.
Now only it has to be sized to fit the building, not the process. So it's a much smaller boiler, and I will be going to the town council to ask for money out of capital reserve funds to replace that boiler. We are going with a propane boiler, not an oil boiler like was the last time, so it's a high efficiency boiler. So,
And that's not on the asset list at the
It's
moment?
page 32.
yes, I think where it is, we need to go back to the water. We're kind of jumping between the water and sewer.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Stands up.
That's
Let's,
why I said.
yeah, let's go back to the
Do you have
water.
the answer to your
Yes.
question?
Yeah. We're getting jumping around.
Oh, it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is because I'm running two departments. And
Yeah.
You're doing a very good job.
Where's the best place you want to start us in walking through what you want to work?
Let me talk about what we're doing, and then we'll go through the sheets one by one.
Just
Okay.
tell
That's
me
the
what
best way
the
to do it.
project is you want, and
Yeah.
we'll tell them what the page is.
So what it is right now is I submitted 3 projects, like I said. 2 out of the 3 projects received funding of 25% grant money. So the goal right now is to try and go and get 25% grant funds for all these projects I'm moving forward that we're gonna discuss right now. So there'll be a warrant article this year for these projects as one big project. And then we'll actually go after the grant money. When we get the grant money, then the project will be done. But the reason we have to go for a warrant article is because without the warrant article, we can't get the grant funds. So the first one that I have on the list is which one do you have first? I'll go through your
Well,
order.
okay.
You give me your order.
The first one I have we're talking water. I have
Yeah.
Bay Road Water Main Improvement on
Okay,
page
yeah.
38.
Yep.
That's for the
Okay.
committee.
So the Bay Road water main is an important water main. It's an 1895 water main. It's actually 1894 pipe that was installed in 1895. We've had at least 3 or 4 breaks on it in the past couple of years. It needs to be replaced, and it's an important water main to us. It also ties into, because one of the projects you're gonna see later, running a water main to Moody Point.
You want to turn to that while we're talking about it?
We're in discussions right now as
Yes.
to whether it's
Using you.
good to do, not good to do based on water
Yes.
quality and grants and stuff. I
We
understand you're speaking to
we
it.
are in discussions with Moody Point about running a water main out to Moody Point to supply them water. We would run a water main to their well house. They would still be responsible for their own water services and water mains within their domain. We would only be responsible for the water main that actually goes to their pump house.
Which would
Okay,
serve.
that's
all-
page 42, if you want to look
Yep.
at that.
And that would serve
description.
all those homes, or
Yes.
what is that road? Not Garrison, but
No, Cushing Road.
Cushing.
Well, yeah, as a quick
Smith
explanation.
Garrison,
No.
No.
At
Okay, so we're about,
Moody Point runs its own water
Water
system
service, yes.
completely now. We have our own wells, our own pump house, and our own distribution to home.
Eh.
On sewers, we run our own sewer system for
Yeah.
collection from the homes, for getting it to our pump station. And then once it's in our pump station, we have a single connection with the
Yes.
town where we pump our sewer into the main.
Eh.
So effectively, we're running our own town water. We're like Sean,
Yeah.
with the exception of one pipe that takes our sewage back.
So ideally, right now, Moody Point is having trouble with water quality. Their wells are under the influence of salt water. They have reached out to DES to try and get loans and help from DES. We actually have a better chance of getting loans from rural development and we've actually met with them. And it may help Moody Point by us getting the loan. The water would be charged, the cost to run that line would be paid by Moody Point. When we get the bill for that, it would be paid for by Moody Point by a betterment fee.
Right, and I understand, though I haven't been involved in any of the discussions, that there's benefit to both parties. There's a certain benefit to the town to have us hook in on
Yes.
what grant money may be available or priority of their projects.
Yes.
So it's,
Right now, rural development has indicated that we are still eligible to get money from, through their programs, and that by putting forward a bigger project, we're able to tap into federal funds. Because what happens is, if a project is only $5 million, we're only available to New Hampshire funds coming through rural development. If the project is bigger, we're able to get the money from the local, but we're also able to get money from the federal. So it's a benefit by doing a bigger project.
to hopefully have all parties benefit as a result.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
all right. You want to go on?
Yep.
Okay, I have the Bennett and Sewell well improvements on page 39.
The Bennett and Sewell wells have not been touched since they've been, were first installed. The Bennett well was 1974, and the Sewell well was 1985. They have a lot of code issues. Their buildings are way too small. We've actually are adding a lot more equipment in there, and they cannot hold the equipment that is within the space. They're in dire need of an upgrade for safety issues for town personnel. This is a project we've actually been saving monies for the past several years. There's money in the CIP. However, it looks like it's more beneficial to go get a loan to get that 25% grant money.
Can I just make
Yeah.
one mention of things? That I just don't want to have something in a town document that I think is, you have Moody Point's water supply has become unusable. It's not true.
Well, it's
Yeah.
compromised. Why don't we change that word?
Yeah.
It's,
At the moment we have it's not killing people, it's
Yeah.
usable, it's passing the tests,
Right.
but we're concerned about it. That's why
Yeah,
we're working.
okay.
Just saying it has become unusable.
That's fine.
compromised?
I wouldn't even say compromise.
Water
I don't know the
quality?
right word. I just,
I would say,
Is of concern.
it is, I'll come up with a better word.
All right. Sean, you'll work with me on that?
Yeah, I will come up with a better word,
All right, thank
because it's not really meeting secondary limits. And is,
Okay, so we're back on page 39, talking about the Bennett and Sewell well improvements.
so, again, the Bennett Sewer well improvements, there is a balance in the account for that. But the one thing that we're gonna find that we need to do is, the reason the other two projects receive funding through the drinking water fund is because we had what they call skin in the game. We'd already put a lot of money into the projects, and that's how you get graded. So, and you get graded if the project's ready to go. So I'm recommending that we use the money within the funds, the capital reserves, to get some of these designs and other things done so that they're more
Shovel,
able to get money.
shovel ready is the term.
Shovel ready
you
is the
used,
term,
right.
yes.
Okay, the next one, Macintosh Tucker Wells treatment.
The Macintosh and
page
Tucker Well.
40.
This is to make Macintosh a standalone well. Right now, we have to use water from the Bennett Sewell wells to blend with the water to make it so we can pump it into the system. It also, the project will be to treat the Tucker well, which we purchased last year. So this facility will be able to treat both the Tucker and Macintosh wells.
So there'll be a backup.
There'll be, yes. It's not just backup. If you look at the 20-year build-out study, we currently do not have enough water. We need additional capacity to meet our safe pumping and safe yield. So these will actually help us meet those requirements.
To meet 20-year capacity requirements.
It's to meet today's and 20 years. So it's to meet
That's
both.
excellent. You ready to go on?
yeah, I was just trying to figure out, Sean, in between the report from Underwood.
Yes.
Is Moody Point in that report?
Moody Point is not in that report because wasn't part of our infrastructure. So in other words, what is in that report was our needs to address water supply and capacity and to meet the asset management plan. So the Moody Point was not part of that plan. Also, if you look at that plan, that actually removes all our 1895 pipe by 2040, except for Packers Falls. And the reason why is Packers Falls is actually in pretty good shape, and it's a 10-inch line, which is a bigger line. The other lines are like 6-inch, which are not the proper size, plus with all the tuberculation, they're probably about a 4. So,
You should bring a sample in to show us. It's
yeah,
always an
I had some
effective way
samples,
of,
but you can see some of the
Okay.
pictures of the,
it's
from my
always an effective way to get the
this
point across.
presentation is actually online. So you can actually go to our water and sewer pipes, it's a 20-year CIP presentation I did.
So is the Macintosh and Tucker treatment, the 3.9 million, is that?
Yes.
One of the 3, to be warranted?
That's one of them, yes, yes. The ones, yes, all the ones in this packet are to be warranted. The Tucker and Macintosh treatment is the one I received 25% grant for. So that's $975,000 that's coming for grant for that project.
So, sort of back to, I just don't want to get all the
We're on
pages
page-
scrambled.
Yeah.
We're on page 40.
Yeah, I'm saying the warrant article that you're planning for this coming year,
It's gonna be, conclude all these projects.
all meaning page
All-
30.
I don't
You
have
said
your
three-
packet.
First you said 3.
And that's 4.
No, I said 3 got grant money. All these projects are gonna be warranted.
And when you say
All of
all
them.
those, it's all those in this report?
No, all the ones in your
those.
All
packet.
the one in your
All the
water
ones in your
section.
packet.
Okay.
All the ones with your pictures,
So we
yes.
can agree which are the ones in the CIP pack. It doesn't include the transportation equipment and stuff like that, so are we going
So it'd be the
page?
Macintosh and Tucker treatment, the Tucker well development, and
Bennett and Sewell.
the Sewell and Bennett,
Yeah,
So that's
just
4 wells.
4
pages 36.
pages, well, they're
1,
30.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects, including Moody Point.
We're starting not with 36, we're starting with 38.
Okay.
38,
7 projects.
right, 7.
So they're all the ones in your packet.
So 38 through
39,
42.
40.
Yep.
And the new road water main
New
replacement?
road water main, is that part of it too?
Yep.
Okay, 43 is included,
And South Main
South Main
Street
is
water main?
included, 44. The equipment storage is not.
No,
Okay.
no.
38, 44.
Those are all gonna be, yes.
38
worn
to
on.
44.
And the total of that is gonna be, is 12.195 million.
Excluding the 25% grant for the 3.
Yes, it has to be for the total of all the projects,
And you
yes,
get
yes.
Okay, so you have to put it in for the entire amount
Yep,
in the warrant,
yep,
then get the 25% off of those.
Yes,
others,
yes.
And what happens to that?
That's a,
so ideally
that's
what they do,
deducted from the bond issue.
Yes.
Deducted from the bond?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Pay down on the bond?
Yeah, a lot of times what they do is you bond the amount, then they give you a forgiveness afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
no, good questions.
no, it's exactly how it works.
Exactly how it works, you get the nail on the head. Okay. So we through with water at this point, Sean?
Yep, it's
And do
water.
those grants cover both the 2 grant sources you potentially have, or are those broken out?
You see, the funding gets really crazy.
It's-
It really
That's a good
does.
question.
It gets really crazy because right now, let's just take,
Yeah, is the 25% the combination of the 2 sources, or is it just the one source?
it could come from any of the 3 sources, or it could be a combination of the sources. For
But it's not
example,
going to exceed 25 in theory at the moment.
it,
Or it could.
well, let's look at it this way. I have a project for the treatment of the Tucker and Macintosh wells. Right now, I told you I had 25% grant money from the drinking water fund, okay?
Okay.
I also have SRF, which I'm the next on the list to get grant funding from if people drop out. It looks like some other people are gonna drop out and not take it.
So it increase.
So I could get some more money out of the SRF. We have not applied for rural development yet. So there could be some more monies coming
Could
for
be
rural development.
3 or 4 different entities
Yes,
supplying you money.
and sometimes what happens too, someone will say, well, I'll give it to you, and then the other one will say, I won't. So you have to choose who has the best interest rate, you know, or who has the best terms. It gets a little murky. It's a long, hard process. It's not an easy
And
process.
it sounds like a lot of this stuff is negotiated with the agencies,
There's a lot of stuff that goes on, yes.
and I say that in a positive. not
It
a
is
negative.
positive. Well, I mean, for example, for the wastewater treatment plant, we had a team. So we got so much from DES and we got so much from rural development. We ended up with, I think, 1.7 million from the state, and we ended up with 1.8 million from rural development, which gave us, you know, a pretty size, you know, it's challenging. But it's in our benefit.
It's in your head, not ours.
Yeah, well, that's why this change of direction makes it very
Kind of
difficult
was a curveball
in
for you.
in a short-term time.
Okay. So do we cover all your projects at this point, Sean?
What's that?
Did we cover everything?
In water, we did, yes.
Okay,
So
so
in
let's
other
go back to
words,
sewer.
what's happening in water, we're just putting, I think, what is it, $64,000 total in the capital reserves
Okay.
this year.
So why don't we turn to page 32 and talk about the wastewater treatment equipment that needs to be replaced in the future and what's being proposed for capital funding over the next 6 years. It's on page 32.
So, the first one was trucks,
Yeah.
which was there's not anything being replaced, and it's just moving, 21,085 to the, into the fund
Right.
for vehicles and equipment. The second one that you have is,
Is the equipment for the wastewater treatment plant,
is it,
starting with the maintenance building?
okay, yes, so page 1.
Page 1.
Okay,
Of
so
yours, yeah.
it's, all we did, as I talked about last year, because it was the first year we started to move money into it, we gave everything a life. If it was over $10,000, we set money aside for it. So when the equipment fails, there's money in the account to replace it. Some equipment will last longer, some equipment will last not as long. It's the best guess on what we feel that equipment's gonna last, based on the
On page
engineer.
32.
Okay, so we're on,
Wastewater treatment,
we're rolling back
page
to.
1.
Yeah, 31, we talked about the vehicles, right?
Yeah.
32, okay. Everybody, we got
You're all
the-
there, I think.
That
We
is
talked
being-
about the
Yeah,
1969
so the
boiler.
1969 boiler, like I said,
You're now asking for it.
yes, I am,
So
because,
we can take that off the list
yeah.
then, right?
Well, I didn't have any money set aside
Yeah,
for it,
but
it was just on a
Next year, we can
list.
take it off the list.
Yeah, so, well, there'll be some money set aside based on the life of the boiler.
For the
You'll
new
have
one.
it back
For the
on the
new one.
list as
We'll
a,
have it back on as a new boiler. Okay,
So, yes.
okay. All right. Do you have any comments on any of this further?
Yeah, I guess we're just setting money aside for the equipment that's in place.
Anything you to say?
well, on all the wastewater, you're continuing to have as part of your budget, what you've had in the past to put aside part of the revenue stream, right, into the capital fund?
Yes, yes.
Sean, I didn't find a page 2. I found a page 1, and I found a page 3 and 4. I didn't find a page 2. Was something missing, or was it just mislabeled?
Maybe they were mislabeled, but I went, when I put them in, I checked them off. and went through them
So
and
is
checked.
everything here that you want, I guess is that's
Well,
the
we
question.
I don't know what you're looking at. Mine say page 2, page 3, and one says
Okay,
Creighton
I
Street.
guess I don't have page 2.
Okay, what we have is a page, wastewater treatment facility, page 1, which starts with primary sludge pump, 1.
I don't have page 2.
Then we have a page 3 that starts with a primary clarifier, drive 1.
And page 4.
Page 4, which starts with a sludge holding tank 1, air piping.
So it sounds like there's a page missing.
And then we have something
So
for
I
Creighton
have-
Street pumping station.
All right, yeah, Creighton Street is one that's supposed to be there. So it's supposed to be Creighton Street.
Yeah, but that's not part of the wastewater treatment
Yeah, no,
facility.
and then there's page 1, which
Okay.
which has the maintenance building.
Right, got that one.
Page 2 has the control building.
All right, we don't have that one.
And then page 3 has site various.
Yep, got that.
And that's all of them.
All right, let me make sure that I have it. I might ask you
Yeah.
to send that to me.
We're missing, and that, what is that facility now again?
That's for the wastewater treatment facility.
These 3 pages are for the wastewater
page
treatment
Yeah,
two.
facility.
maintenance was one, and the one we were missing was
Page 2.
entitled
Control building.
control.
Yeah.
But in any case, on any of those 4 wastewaters, you're funding replacement costs for the future on what your existing stuff is. You don't need to replace equipment this year. You're not looking to
No, I'm not, we're just trying to put,
fund the future.
yeah, we're trying to put so much away each year until it needs to be replaced. So, like I said, sat down with the engineer, determined what the life of the equipment is, and then we divided it by the number of years.
Okay, right, I understand.
Yeah.
And if I had to marry, which it doesn't seem married, these 2 documents, this is covering both wastewater and water. This new plan, though it includes wastewater, is primarily focused on the water side.
That is only water.
Right.
That is only water. And you'll notice Underwood's, I got that to you guys early, because that's actually, doesn't have Underwood's heading on it because it's a draft, so. But that's just water.
Okay.
So Creighton Street, is that the next one you have for equipment?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
On page 35, everyone?
So that's just, again, the same as the equipment for the wastewater treatment plant, setting money aside to replace the equipment as it goes at Creighton Street.
Yeah. A new roof on that building would improve its looks.
A new roof, did you say?
Yes, on the Creighton Street building. Like the
Did it-
one in Durham on Route 4.
Did I spell something wrong, or? Maintenance buildings and water, I gotta find my sheets. Okay, where are we now?
Do we, the old water treatment facility, which is lying fallow, is that?
No,
It's not
working.
Okay.
It's in mothballs.
The water treatment, the drinking water facility, yeah, is in mothballs. We're in the process of moving everything out of it.
This
The
is
And-
one-
Creighton
The one
Street.
next to the,
No, Creighton Street is the
No, no.
one down at
Yeah,
Creighton.
behind the DFW.
Yes,
but the one next to the cemetery.
Oh,
But that's a
Parker's
water
Falls, that's
treatment
different,
plant.
yeah.
yes, Packers Falls is the water plant. And
And
that's
that's the
something,
one we're relocating.
yeah, we're moving
the stuff.
everything out of it. And then I'm gonna get together with the facilities director and determine what we can do with that building.
That was my next question. Is
But that's
the
not,
town inclined to do an RFP and put it on the private market, or?
We're gonna have to evaluate that and decide. It's in line. I'm just
It
trying
hasn't been
to, I'm
decided
trying to
yet.
get it empty.
right, but
Yeah.
that's not an asset listed here with. the-
No,
No.
no, I have not listed it as an
No,
asset.
We have
asset
that
was that
listed
we
with the
have.
facility with Greg, though it's
It's
not
almost
covered in this report.
laboratory.
because-
It would be in my area, yes. It would be listed in my area as a water department asset.
Until such
I
time.
hope so.
till I, yeah.
It's a good
Right,
point.
it's not on the project list because we're planning on doing nothing
Could
to
that be a s-
improve that, or we're not putting away money
It's a
to
good point.
improve
No,
that.
we are
Excellent
not.
point.
But it's an existing asset that
Belongs to the water.
belongs to the water
Good
department on the town's list.
Yes, yes.
Sean, can it be used as a storage facility for the water and wastewater department?
It's really, like I said earlier, it's not a good place to store things. A lot of our stuff is heavy. We can't, get it in and out. I think you're gonna gain the most by selling it and having somebody do something with it.
It's a really neat building.
A lot of people
Architecturally,
are interested in it
Yeah, it has a
Yep.
lot of character.
because it's right on the water.
Beautiful view.
So a lot of people are actually really, I've had a lot of people ask about it.
It's dead.
Like Rosie?
One,
Right.
but there's been at least 6 others.
Really?
Gotcha.
So whether it would come to fruition or not, it's just not a good building for us.
Now the town's gonna have to get its files out of
I know, who's gonna move the files and archive them for us?
I think you need to speak to the facilities manager.
Wonder why I have asthma.
I thought I always
So-
I'm spending too much time on
The only item I have left is
Upstairs
the
of that
pumping
building.
station upgrades.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about Creighton, are we ready to move on? You have a general category for pump station improvements, on page 36.
The pumping stations, the town has 6 pumping stations. They all range from having equipment and stuff installed in them in 1969, original equipment, up to some that have parts and pieces that have been upgraded just 2 years ago. But in a whole, if you look at Cedar Street and Packers Falls, all their electrical equipment is 1969. If you look at Salmon Street, most of it is 1977. Bay Road is 1984. So a lot of these stations haven't really truly been touched. And we've been trying to put money aside to make improvements to them, but it's getting to the point where the most cost-effective way to do it is to go in and do them one at a time. And what I'm trying to do is set money aside to do one every year. And what that is, or every other year. And that way, because my thought is if we improve them all at once, well then in 20 years, we're gonna have to do them all at once again. If we try and do them every year, or every other year, you don't have you're not seeing that
You
all
don't
at
have the
once
financial
again.
burden hitting them.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to spread them out, so, but I mean, they're all in dire need. They're in dire need of replacement.
But aside from the pump, we talked about the Packers Fall Pump Station as a separate little building versus the old
Yes.
treatment plant.
This is
Right.
sewer. Yes,
But
it's
this is
sewer.
sewer.
Yes.
Mix them up.
Gotcha.
So,
It's
but I
a
mean,
no-no.
It has wastewater.
but if you go into the Packers Falls pumping station,
Right.
the ventilation system does not work anymore. Which we're supposed to have, 4 air changes an hour, which we can't get. So, I mean, and you look at the electrical breakers are 1969. They're floating in there. If you go to Cedar Street, there was some genius engineering back in '69 where they actually put lights in the wet well. So, we've had to pull the wire out of there, so there's a lot of issues with our pumping stations, and we need to get them done. Right now, where the water department has done an asset management program,
Blow the place up.
the sewer department has just begun to do an asset management program for the sewer department. So, next year at this time when I come in, the wastewater will have an asset management plan done where we know every piece of pipe we have, every piece of equipment we have, and hopefully we'll have a plan to try and get all this work done. But what this pump station does, it sets us starts setting $200,000 aside to do work on pumping stations. We do have some in design right now. There is some money set aside. The price tag to do, right now, before, design, to do the, and that's this report here, to do Packers Falls, Cedar Street, and, Salmon Street is about $1.5 million.
Okay, we talked about sewer
That
equipment.
covers-
I think, does that cover all the sewer
That
equipment?
covers everything, because we discussed
Okay.
the, storage of it.
Okay.
And Lady Slipper is their problem, right?
Lady Slipper is a private entity.
Yeah.
So there are several private entities out there. There is Lady Slipper, Mockingbird, Brialia, and Moody Point.
And they're all privately
Operated and
operated
funded,
by the
yes.
homeowners associations.
Yes.
What about Shanda
We have
development?
nothing to do with Shan.
That's just water, though, it's
Yeah,
not
we
sewer.
don't do anything with Shan.
Okay. Is that still the Merrimack Valley or Pennachuck Water Company?
I don't know who does that.
Doesn't matter.
I have enough
You got
to
enough
worry
on your
about.
plate to worry about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the confusion, but it's been a change of direction.
That's okay. And we'll try
I'll
to
go
get
back
those.
I'll go on the U drive, but I know I did it, but if we don't,
Well,
we'll figure it
We've
out.
got 50,
I know I
almost
get it.
60 pages, and we've tried to go through them all and number them and reformat them so we can get them printed. And
If
it was
I could have a request,
huge
maybe if you
undertaking.
send those to us next year, the
We will
packet.
send them to you when we get the whole thing together and it's
because-
organized.
Because then I'd have the packet and I could check off and make sure you have them.
That's.
You know, and I could sit here and work off
It's
the
just-
same packet.
It's
No, I
just-
get it,
We got them last
we could.
Thursday, we got them out to
Yeah.
everybody on Friday, there were a few missing, we found out on Monday.
Yeah,
Here it is Tuesday, and we're still getting.
No, I get it, but I
It's
mean,
about a
you-
week in between.
if you give me the packet, I'll be working off the same packet you're
Okay.
working on.
Yep.
Gotcha.
You
Absolutely.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Which will
absolutely.
Make it nice.
Makes sense. Sean, the fourth private, you said Moody Point, Realia, Lady Slipper, and
Mockingbird?
Mockingbird?
We have both.
Was that project for Aurelia?
Those are all private stations.
Yeah, there's no projects.
There's no projects. We have about 22 miles of gravity sewer and about 2 miles of force main.
And those are all watered system only?
The water is about 28 miles of water.
Right, but the four projects are water,
Water project.
Yes.
not sewer, because we
sewer.
all
Yes.
contribute, okay.
Yes.
It's not easy.
Due diligence when you're reading your
The water mains, there are
What's that?
some water mains in
diligence when
that
you're
project
reading
list,
it.
yes.
commitment.
There was actually 7 on the wall. We went through them.
Oh, those 7.
Yes, those 7.
Okay.
Yes, there's 7 water.
Does this do, thank you, Sean. Any
Yeah.
other questions for
This is
Sean?
everything, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll
it's a-
coordinate with you.
Yeah.
The next couple of days, we'll get everything
And-
organized better.
If anybody wants tours of what is on the list, you're more than welcome to contact me and we can go through them at your time. More than happy to do it.
What do we have? Schools coming up in planning. And if Phil ever shows up.
Well, we also have,
Schools.
well,
And the
besides
rest of the
schools,
full
yeah,
facilities.
the rest of facilities. I guess my question, and I know the timing package, thank you very much, Rick, by the way.
Do I
Thank you,
get extra
Greg.
points because we
Planning.
pretty much
You-
made up time? Look at that.
Absolutely. You didn't have to
Even with all
tap
the
your,
confusion.
you didn't have to tap your Mary Jane so much. Okay, everything's,
That was a nice
okay, that was a bad one?
No, that was a nice comment.
Okay, yes, okay.
They probably don't know what Mary Janes are.
You know, as I'm aging,
Little candy bars.
people in this room,
Right.
most people in this room, Trevor, you, with the
Mary
exception
Janes
of
were
you,
the shoes
understand
with the
most
little
of the anachronisms that I use, that are now
you.
anachronisms. But
Yeah, but mine was.
if I said to
There's a
you,
lot that I'm still figuring out.
yeah, you know, If I
I think
said
we're dating
Niagara
ourselves when we
Falls
talk
or
about
who's
Mary
on
Jane.
first, you may or may be aware of those, but us were aware that those were massive things in our generation of Abbott and
Patent
Costello
leather
routines,
with
for
little
example.
white socks with lace on them.
There was a big
Um,
Abbott Costello, skit.
Can we take a break for about 5 minutes?
Yep, I think we have a 15-minute
And-
break coming right up.
Okay, and the one I ask you to think about is with all the pages we need to put back together again, if we're supposedly meeting next week,
We will do our best to get them all together and organized.
and then on a spreadsheet where that is an output of.
We'll work on the spreadsheet. I'm only one person, okay?
Oh, no, I know.
You know?
I'm just trying to
And I've
figure
got
out the calendar you
A
have
lot of deadlines
with.
coming up this month.
Right, and so is the 28th still a deadline we must get a report out, or?
We still have the 28th, but we're not meeting next Monday, we're meeting the 24th. We are,
And then
okay.
24th and 25th.
If I can
and
get
maybe the
some
26th.
help from some of my coworkers, maybe we can get everything together.
But if there is a deadline that we can move as a result of this getting a little more complex, do we have to finish our recommendations by the 28th, or do we have to like October
We have
2nd or
October
3rd?
1st, I think is the deadline.
2 days.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll
well,
get it,
we'll
we'll
have
get
to
it together.
speak about, okay.
Together. We'll get it done.
Okay.
But it
Now
might
we're
need some
break.
help
We're gonna
from
take a
other
break
people
for
to get
about
it
10
done.
minutes.
set, waiting for our chairman to
Yep.
come back to us.
Okay. Where would you like us to start, Meredith?
So I'm hoping my pages are in the same order as yours, so
I
we'll,
don't know if they are,
we'll-
but
we'll
we'll
work
tell you
through
what
that.
the projects are in the order that I have
okay, so why
prepared
don't
them.
you do that, and then I'll adjust.
The first is on page 18 of our handout, and it is the elementary school additions and renovations.
Okay, perfect. So, as you know, that bond was approved by voters, so we've reflected the expense here. Those continue. You can see the payments adjust there very modestly over the years. And we expected that to continue for 25 more years or so. Beyond your sheet here. And we are, well, I'm sure Greg and I could both provide you with updates, but the elementary school project will be completed at the end of next summer. Payments, unfortunately, will not, but we will be occupying the renovations and the additions, the renovated areas and the additions in fall of 2019.
Good.
And continuing with that, I think your next sheet then is the junior, senior high.
Page 19, we have the junior and senior high school.
And so that project is also underway. That project will continue until late spring of 2020. So sometime around April, end of April, we're targeting for completion. Worst case scenario is it finishes in June of 2020. That's our final deadline. I won't belabor either of those.
And now the order gets a little
Okay.
mixed up, but I'll tell you what we have for page 20. We have a roof
Yep.
replacement on the school, and it wasn't clear to me whether this was both schools or just the high
Great.
school or the elementary school.
Yep. So the roof replacement is at the junior, senior high. This was in your CIP plan for last year. I believe we included for you last year the full roof report. The roofs of both of our schools were surveyed. Most of those are not a part of the construction project because they had been redone earlier. And I think our next roof doesn't hit us until after the conclusion of this next CIP projected. That's not to say that conditions can't change, as you know, in working through this process, but I think our next roof is somewhere around 2028, if memory serves.
It's right in that area, yes.
This roof, square footage, Greg, you would know?
Did not put it on there. I can give you an educated guess that it's in the 9,000 square foot range. This happens to be the roof that's on the 1925 building. And that's actually a picture of that roof. So.
Right, and this is page 20, correct?
Yes.
And this, I don't think it mentions that this is just the junior, senior high school.
No, but I've made a note to
Okay.
correct that on the form.
Super.
You ready to go on to the next one?
Sure.
All right, again, it's out of a little bit of order, but we have the Newmarket School accounting upgrades.
Yep.
Software upgrade, and that's on page 21.
Yes. So the software system that we have is essentially being phased out by our provider, and it will no longer be supported. So we are targeting a replacement of that in 2021-22. So not next year or the following year. The following year, we would begin kind of that implementation process, gearing up for that implementation process. You can see we've projected that as a $30,000 upfront expenditure and then a $10,000 recurring cost. It is likely not going to be the same software system as the town. The town system has more modules than we really need as a school department, and so it's possible that it could be the same vendor, but my guess is it is not as elaborate a system that we would be seeking for the school. So this cost is based on what we know about our needs.
Okay.
But if the system satisfies the needs of the school and doesn't use all the features, is there any economic benefit to having one system that you could use rather than paying for a second separate system?
I think we would have to look at that when we bid, but my gut impression is that the cost differential would be great enough that you would not realize enough of a savings to make it worth sharing the system.
Okay.
So in projection, what would that do to the combined accounting system that we are now running?
We don't use a combined accounting system now.
You don't use, we do have one person?
We
a-
have one person, but we
person.
have two
That's what
systems.
I meant, the person.
Yes,
Right.
so there would be no change essentially. to
Right, my
that.
question was more of if we're paying for the system in the town,
Yeah.
and there's not a variable cost for the amount of usage, if the school could use features of
You'll
that
have
system.
licensing, with the Munis platform that's being used for the
Right.
town right now, there is licensing when you add on more users and more groups. The accounting from the school side still has to be separate from the town as, say, two accounting systems. Could it be under one software package? Sure. But again, there's licensing issues and things like that you have to look at as well.
Okay, and that was
So
really my
it's-
question,
Like
that
I said,
we,
it's possible when we bid that we may find that that is the right package and that and even if it were a higher cost, it might be worth the expense, to your point. My impression right now, based on what I know about our needs and what I know about that system, is that probably that would be at a higher price point for us and not.
right, and I don't know the answer either, I'm just saying that as we
Yeah,
get
but
closer
that's
and
a town
closer.
issue to come forward and to look into that with Greg and with Steve.
Absolutely, yeah, that's one of the decision points, is
Yeah.
just what fills your needs and what's the most economic.
That's right, and there is an analysis to do there for sure.
Okay,
The next one is the Newmarket Elementary School floor replacement
Yes.
on page 22, everyone.
So you see that request begins in FY '21, or the 2021 school year for us. The renovations to the elementary school are modest in scope. The renovations are not touching items like flooring within that building, but we do have a number of classrooms that still have sort of a partial tile, partial carpet within those buildings. This has come up before, so the goal would be to phase out the carpet, and we're looking to do that essentially over a 5-year period. Those have after that have a 15-year approximately life cycle, and so it would be an expense for 5 years, not an expense for a period of time, and then an expense you would see again.
That's the next year's consideration.
That would be an FY 2021 beginning, yep.
Right. Just two comments. One, I love the picture. I mean, how could you not approve something?
They are not our students for privacy reasons.
I understand, but how could you not approve a project?
That is a picture that I found that I thought was wonderful, and so I had to use it.
Yeah, well, if you used it on every page, we'd approve everything.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Meredith,
Put
thus
the
noted.
sewer pipes right next
Right.
to it.
Can I ask,
Sure, please.
very much you're not finished?
I just wanted to make sure that when we get down to focusing on this year's recommendation, that we're only taking what we recommend in the 1920
Yes.
period. And so this
Understood.
project, though it's important absolutely to document every project we have so we can plan for the future and track against these things, would not have an impact on this year's recommendation.
Right.
Okay. It's more just for us and
I have
Sure.
2 questions on the acronyms. What does VCT stand for, and what does IAQ stand for?
Vinyl composite tile
Okay.
and indoor air quality. So by replacing old carpet that requires sort of regular cleaning and drying and whatnot with vinyl tile, it would improve the air
Did you say
quality in the school.
vinyl
Vinyl
composite?
composite tile.
Okay.
Sometimes it's
Great.
also called vinyl colored
It's
tile.
IAU is indoor air quality.
IAQ.
Q.
Q, I'm sorry. As we go through and do the editorial changes, we want to make sure it's clear what
Absolutely.
we're talking about.
It's
So, we
important, and
appreciate
we
it.
fall into acronyms, I know, all the time, so I appreciate the question.
Yeah, and one last question, just to validate, the difference between the town and the school is for example, when we bond in the town, like in Sean for water, et cetera, we still have to pay that off through the ratepayers, and we'd have to create
Yeah.
that funding source. But when we're funding the capital reserve, we're funding that out of the town's
Right.
operating budget each year.
Right.
Meredith, in order, in theory, to fund the only project so far that we covered that affect, outside the bond, is the junior-senior high school roof replacement.
That's correct. And
So-
that is slated in our proposal to be withdrawn from our capital reserve fund. So we are
Existing,
slated
so
to use our
you would not have
existing
to put up
fund.
a warrant article.
That is correct.
If you had insufficient funds, in theory, you'd have to put up a
See.
water article, not a
Yeah.
contribution to capital reserve.
That is correct. And the other items that we're reviewing for you are proposed to come out of to be built into our operating budget for subsequent years, including this tile replacement.
All right, ready to move on?
Yes.
The next is the food service POS, and that's on page 23. And POS stands for,
Point of
Point of
sale.
Or if you work in the restaurant industries.
thank you.
It's nice that it's not point of sale, it's the same as everybody else uses.
Yes, this one does align. So our point of sale system is also several years old. The intent would be to replace those. Again, it's software that is becoming obsolete. There's a company that has bought up a lot of different entities, and so the one that we have will be phased out. So we are looking to replace that system. It's a one-time capital outlay, and then there is a modest recurring licensing fee. To Greg's point, it would be a web-based system, and the cost includes not only the software, but as well the touchscreen system that we would use at the checkout point of our school cafeterias.
Everybody all set with that one?
This
Okay,
don't really apply to this year, so I don't.
right, well, it's still part of the 6-year plan.
Right, and to me, that's, some of the best value is not what we actually fund year to year, because that's rarely what we recommend.
Yeah.
But it's that we have our arms around all the moving pieces,
Yep.
so we don't get surprised with something huge and new in the future if we can avoid it.
That's right.
It
And
just may
that's-
not have an impact. on
That's
it.
certainly our goal. And then I think the final page you have.
Is the school pickup truck.
All right. So that is proposed as a lease. That is actually in our operating budget this year as the first year of that recurring cost. And so we hope to have that in place sometime in the next couple of months. Right now, the district does not have any vehicles for district use, and so we have been fortunate that some of our employees have shared their personal vehicles, but that is not something that I would expect them to do long-term, and in the event something were to go wrong, that's a liability certainly for us as employers. So our goal is to purchase a pickup truck for moving furniture around between the schools, picking up, items that are needed for repairs, donations, cleaning up the grounds from time to time, when there's brush cleanup that we wind up doing internally. So to us, that's a resource that would see a lot of use. We've also proposed having it be available or outfitted with a plow. We do have spaces, less so right now on our campus because most of it's under construction, but when they are finished, we will once again have spaces that the town can't care for with the volume of work that they're doing. So they do a great job of opening up our driveways and taking care of our parking lots, but there are some areas that are additional egresses for us, for example, where we need to keep the area cleared, and it allows us to take care of that. Right now, most of that work is done by our staff with snow blowers, and that is also pretty labor intensive and time consuming.
And again, it's as much to make sure I have a good view as well as it appears you're asking for no warrant articles to contribute to your reserve trust funds of any
Not
kind.
at this time,
Okay, or at least the capital fund.
correct.
and that the only way you can put money into your capital reserve fund or your repair and maintenance fund is to have a warrant article,
That is
not
correct.
an operating feature.
That is
But in
correct.
the case of the truck, being a lease, you can put that in your operating budget as a requirement and not have anything as a warrant article to fund that truck.
That is correct. And that happened, as I say, it's in our current year budget, and this is continuing the cycle of the payment cycle for that vehicle.
I'm actually going to look at a truck for us tomorrow. I think I found one.
That's it? Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And if there are any questions, I'm sure Diane can send them my way, or you're welcome to contact me directly.
Isn't it nice to have the bond approved so that
There's a lot
you
less
don't
to
have to
talk
go
about,
through
for
it?
sure. We are very grateful, and it's exciting to see the work.
With all these machinations?
I'm still sponging it in.
When it's bonded, whether it's by the town or the school, it becomes part of our tax rate. That's where the revenue is collected to pay down the bond. It has nothing to do with our capital reserve, because it's being paid out of the tax rate and the bond side. There may be differences in the school and the town on how they move money into capital reserve, but whenever you see bond, that's, I think, virtually equal to tax rate except water and sewer, right?
It is an
Which it now
obligation.
becomes into the rate of what you pay as a water and sewer user, not a bond that's part of a tax rate. So that's one of the differences there. And I'm sure there's more moving parts that I don't know, but I'm at least trying to surface.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
as Greg said, the difference from the leasing aspect is leasing can get paid out of your operating budget versus acquiring an asset should get paid out of your capital reserves. That's where it would have to go.
And
So
there-
when Rick talked about the fire truck yesterday, I think, I may have the wrong word, but his $500,000 item, he was saying if we don't have enough money in capital reserve and we're not going to fund that with a new large infusion of $250,000, we'll go out and lease that. That lease would be paid out of the operating budget, correct, Rick? Okay.
Yeah, it still has to be listed in the CIP program because like the truck is considered
It's an asset.
it's an asset and it's equipment asset, so anything over that 10 grand. That's why you see the point of sale system because it's 10 grand and it's considered an equipment piece, not a capital improvement to a facility.
Right, so when you look down at what Diane's provided on these sheets in project funds, in that 21 to 29 on the left-hand side of these sheets, the only thing we're really focused on is the capital reserve, what money goes into there. So when Sean ended up showing his pieces, or anybody does, or Amy did, she was saying so much of depending on the capital reserve to fund this, that's the piece we're, but guess what? That's not all the money. I'm getting some from grants or some from the enterprise fund, et cetera. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Meredith,
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Meredith.
your
That was
sitting
great.
out with us for that discussion.
Delighted. We all learn every day.
Yes, we do.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Then I forget at my age, so I have to re-say it again. Greg
Hi.
or Diane? Do you
Diane.
want to do planning first, or?
Sure, I'd be
Okay.
happy to do that. Let me see if I can find my notes.
Page
Hey,
17.
oh, thank you.
Master plan.
I appreciate it.
We are committed already. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well done. You're
you.
approved.
Wow,
you.
that wasn't that formal. Holy mackerel. I got a lot to follow up behind now.
The planning department just has one project this year, which I think is familiar to you all. I think this is the fifth year, or will be the fifth year, that we've requested funding in the amount of $10,000 to go towards a comprehensive master plan update scheduled for 2025. To give you a little bit of some background, the master plan, if you will, is a blueprint for the future. It is the basis for the town zoning ordinance. It is a requirement in order for the town to seek development impact fees from developers. And it's basically good planning. And the idea of it is to look at a number of functional areas within the community, identify needs, develop policies, goals, objectives, and recommendations to move forward into the future. It's supposed to be a living document, and that it's not just a plan that's done once every 25 years and then put on a bookshelf to collect dust and sit there, but it's supposed to be a living document. And we're going to be embarking on a process with the planning board where every year we're going to sit down with the master plan recommendations and do a quick review to see if we're still on track, and if not, move forward with some changes so that it can keep up to the current times. The master plan requirements are dictated by the state under RSA 673, and it is the responsibility of the planning board to develop the master plan with the purpose of guiding development. And as I mentioned, it's the legal basis for town regulations as well as the CIP, and it's necessary for impact fees. In 2014, the town charter was updated, and there is a provision in there regarding the master plan saying that it should be updated no less frequently than once in every 10 years. And in the past, the planning department, since the planning department is basically myself and a half-time administrative assistant, working with the planning board, zoning board, town council, conservation commission, CIP committee, McAllen Dam committee, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just one person who is basically taking on the charge of getting this coordinated. In the past, we've drawn upon outside assistance from the Stratford Regional Planning Commission. In many cases, our master plan updates that we've done annually have been driven by what is available for grant funding. And in years past, we've done the future land use plan update, the housing and demographic update, water resource plan, and those projects were funded by the New Hampshire Coastal Program, which is a program of the Department of Environmental Services. And we've been very fortunate to be able to tap that source of funding to help get the job done. And of course, the master plan is supposed to be based on a public process, and it's not something where you sit at a desk and hammer out a plan and present it. Here it is, but obviously we want to engage the public and get a lot of input. And in 2014, when we did the future land use update, we also did a visioning session, and I don't see anybody here who was involved in that, but we had two workshops here in the auditorium on a Saturday, and we invited as many stakeholders in the community as possible. And with the Planning Commission, sessions were facilitated to help identify what are the town's critical needs, should be our goals in going forward, and how that information can be assimilated, if you will, into the future land use plan. And as a part of that process, there were several recommendations that came forward. And we also did a survey, community attitude survey, and it was put online, and we got a lot of response from the community about where we should be going in the direction of things. As I said, we try to do at least a chapter at a time, drawing upon grants, intern help. 1 year we hired a consultant who worked as sort of the ghost consultant behind the scenes, helping us write the plan and working with the planning board to come up with some strategies. And we have, worked with other communities, or I have worked with other communities on their master plans, and I have a pretty good handle on what the costs can be. And, we see in some communities, for instance, I think it was the town of Merrimack, town of Bedford recently updated their master plans, and it was like a $150,000 project. So it's not something that you want to fund in 1 year, and the hope is that by having a little amount of money every year set aside, we can get to that goal. So we're requesting, again, $10,000, and we are going to continue to work until that time and just trying to keep the process rolling. And we will be meeting with the planning board to identify what chapter they would like to update as the next chapter, and how we're perhaps maybe reorganize the order of it, and maybe things that back in 2001 when we did the last comprehensive update were relevant maybe today, if not as relevant. There might be things such as energy conservation. I know there's an energy committee that's been working, and Greg has done some great work in trying to make the facilities energy efficient so that we can take advantage of cost savings associated with that. So perhaps energy might be an area that might be something the planning board might consider. But the idea is that once a year we would meet with the planning board and have them help to define what that priority should be going forward.
Right.
So I guess that pretty much sums up, I don't know how much detail you'd like, but that's
Well,
kind of in a nutshell what the process is.
Yeah,
And I
we've been putting
appreciate
away
it.
money for this, and we
We
haven't
have.
used much of it.
We
and-
haven't, because we want to be able to, one of the pitfalls with doing it on a incremental yearly basis is sometimes you overlook the big picture. And a master plan, in order to be sustainable and legally defensible, is you want to be able to look at how these different areas, if you will, land use, transportation, natural resource protection, how they work together to create the whole. So we want to try to look at it in a more comprehensive basis.
As we're
but
updating the
meanwhile-
pieces, you're gonna get to a point in the future where you say,
Right.
let's use that money to synthesize all the pieces.
And put it together, and again, we're planning out to 2025. But, the time goes by quickly, and it's an important document, and it does provide the framework for what the planning board does and what our regulations call for, and what the CIP committee has recommended in years past. There really needs to be a connection, if you will, between the capital improvements plan and the CIP, and that's written in the state law, especially when it comes to using monies that we've collected from developers through impact fees for capital improvements, which have to be used for projects that are addressing growth that has occurred in the community. So there has to be a relationship, they call it the rational nexus, between the impact fees, the regulation, and the master plan. So they have to be entwined in a sense.
Is another way of saying at least part of it, that master plan is quoted in some of the funding regulations that we have, so that if you don't have something that validates it in your master plan, then raising funds or using funds for that purpose could be questioned.
Right. For instance, when Amy was putting together her application to the Land and Water Conservation Fund, she consulted with us, and, she was able to use information in the master plan and in the regional development plan to help support, if you will, the proposal. And that's usually one of the first questions they ask: is this project consistent with the town's master plan? And the hope is that that master plan has been developed with participation from the public, so that it really, truly reflects what the needs and the interests are of the community members and seeing the town move forward.
Great, thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions? No? Trevor's saying, okay.
I'm very interested in learning about all these departments and how they work together, and I'm happy to help you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. We're always looking for new planning board members and zoning board members and people to participate in, sounding boards and master plan updates. So
Yeah,
we'll keep that
it's a
in
lot of work
mind.
to
I'll make a
raise the towns.
mental note of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Sir, do you want to go up into that hot seat, stay in your current hot seat?
I'm enjoying my
warmed it up.
thing, and I don't think I can even close follow Diane's introduction and
She's a pro,
approach.
no doubt about it. She knows how to work the system, absolutely.
She
I don't know
has
about
that
working
quite
the
well
system.
polished, I'd like to
I'm
say
not as
that.
polished as Meredith, I might add.
I have a question just for Diane and Greg. I know that, I'm hoping you can answer the question. I'm remembering back from my budget committee days on enterprise funds, and I know we have an enterprise fund currently from recreation. Wasn't there another enterprise fund or two? I
There
thought
was
for
another
garbage
community-
collection or something?
Oh, I don't know about garbage, but there was another community recreation fund that was created with some caveats attached to it regarding matching funds. And it was,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
it was from the
community recreation,
sale,
it was from the
sale
of
of
the,
that property that's
prop-
going into the school.
If I have
where
a
the
question on,
nursing home is
yeah,
right now.
in looking at this list of funds that we have, which are the capital funds, okay, we don't have the school on here, and since we're doing the school, it would be nice eventually to have a school trust fund page, just so we know. And I was just thinking of, you know, your point, Trevor, which is how do you know where all the pieces are and how they fit together? There is a general fund that has nothing to do with capital, that is whether we overspend or underspend a budget, we can contribute to the general fund of the town. The school has a general fund that's just been put in that allows them to keep any unspent money up to 2 or 3% of their
I think it's
budget.
2%.
Yeah. And then we have this other little place of trust funds. I don't know if there are any other than the library that we should be aware of. And the last is the enterprise funds. Amy's fund, just to make a very positive about it, was recommended by the Budget Committee and the CIP probably 5 or 6 years ago, to say, gee, it was an enterprise fund, but it wasn't funding much of the recreation program. The town council set a goal of recommendations that said they should at least pay for the program side. We will pay for the management of the programs. And that set them on a course to look at their fees against their programs, and it's been very successful. They now have $200,000 or $300,000 in excess of what the actual costs of running the program. The town still pays for Amy and her staff, I believe,
Right.
out of the tax rate. But all the rest of what they actually deliver in programs and expenses are paid for by the fees people pay to use those programs. Okay, so that enterprise, now that it's successful, has a cash balance of saying this is more than, we're generating more revenue than the actual cost of the programs. And they're using that as a, sort of like the library trust fund. Does the library trust fund pay, or do we pay this out of the town? Amy has the use of the enterprise fund with permission of the town council, et cetera, to say, we'll fund this by taking so much money out of the enterprise fund, so much money out of the capital fund that's associated with rec. And whether it should all just be a capital fund, or I just want to make sure that we know that that cash is there when we make a
Well, yeah, but the
recommendation.
restrictions on that, so those funds are different.
On the
Well,
rec,
the enterprise fund and her revolving fund and her enterprise fund and her capital fund, they have their own specific uses identified in whatever the documents
you
were.
use it.
How they use it. She can buy basketballs out of her revolving fund.
Right.
Which she
And
could
it
not.
carries over from year to year.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yeah,
well, I think revolving fund and enterprise fund are the same
it could be.
thing. That's what, I just,
Yeah.
because I noticed that. Okay,
It's the
Yeah.
same idea, yeah.
that's it.
Okay.
In which case, let's go to the left out sheets.
So, just a thought process, might be a good idea before we go through some of these next sheets, because some of these are actually under what may be an ESCO project, is to just review what is potentially for the ESCO project.
Okay.
And so, I just wanted to kind of go review that. And so, for instance, right now at Town Hall, what we're looking at is complete LED lighting and lighting controls under ESCO. A brand-new HVAC system, heating, ventilating, air conditioning system for the facility. And we're looking at what's called a VRF. And it's a variable refrigerant system. It's extremely high efficiency way to do it through heat pumps. People may be more knowledgeable about heat pumps as they think about those that have been put in their homes. This is just the large scale type system, and it allows us to actually operate this to only the load necessary for the given time or space.
What is it, it's cooling and heating?
It is a cooling and heating system.
Yeah.
It does have, as the next item, gas boiler plants as backup. So one of the things we do have here is baseboard heat around the perimeter of the building. That still needs to be operational, but we're looking at, as part of the ESCO, brand-new boilers that are condensing gas-fired. There's some real good pluses by getting away from the heating oil we have, and looking at condenser-type boilers. First, efficiency is much greater. It's huge removal of greenhouse gases. Excuse me. And one of the other things it does allow us is we have a 1985 underground oil tank out behind the building here that we use to provide heating oil to this building. It is not subject to requirements of removal, as it is a heating-only tank. So there's some different laws when it comes down to what it's being used for. But it is a 1985 tank. It still passes our inspections, which we do on it, but it is an underground oil tank, and we just as soon get that out of the ground to eliminate any potential issues down the road. We're looking at, here at Town Hall, a heat recovery ventilator. Now, what is that? So it is actually for this space, the auditorium. Currently, we do not do any fresh air exchange in the auditorium. There is the systems that we have which provide cooling in here, literally just recirculate the existing air. That doesn't allow for the best air quality, and so what we're looking is putting a system in that actually removes the air from the space, exchanges the heated air from this space, separated, but it takes the heated air from this space and preheats the air from the outside. So it's the heat recovery portion of it. So basically what we do is, if you think of like a plate or a wall, one side we got the air that's going to be exhausted, that's heated, and the other side's the air that's fresh, that's coming in, and that plate transfers the heat from one side to the other. So instead of bringing in 30-degree outside air and now you're reheating that air, we're going to preheat that with the air we're exhausting to maybe 60 degrees, and then we're only supplementally heating that.
So you're using your waste air that's
recycled
hot
Correct.
to warm up the cold air before you use additional energy to warm up the cold air.
Correct.
Okay.
Thus, the heat recovery ventilator is what it's referred to. So
And
we're looking
that's
at
part of
putting
the
that
ESCO
system
stuff.
here
Okay.
in the auditorium, because we don't currently do any air exchange in this auditorium, where we do in other parts of the building.
Are we on page 54, Greg? Or-
I'm not on any page, I'm on that other handout that I gave you earlier today. The one that says Town of Newmarket preliminary ESCO projections, September 18th.
That I don't think we have.
Yeah, we don't
I don't
have,
have that.
we don't have.
I sent that to you this morning.
Oh, well, I guess it didn't get copied for the meeting.
Okay. Well,
I
we had
apologize.
We had another thing at some point where Greg had a plan on his presentation that he was going to, I think, send to you for distribution.
And that's these forms.
Oh, I thought it was, that
There was
There's
also
also
a
another
facility
one.
plan, but I have not had a chance to get those things copied.
Oh, no, I'm not saying copied, I'm just saying distributed. I don't know if we
Well,
distributed
you
it.
distribute it, you gotta copy it.
Not really, we can do it on email, let you know. But you know what I mean.
We will get copies to the,
So one of the requests from yesterday's meeting was to create that projections of ESCO projects that we could do, and that's what I'm reviewing right now.
Yeah, okay.
So the heat recovery ventilator, this, and I'm just talking town hall right now.
Yep.
Energy management system, so that we can actually control temperatures and operations of our facility. So that things like somebody turning the heat up to 80 degrees and then forgetting that they did it, and then the next morning come into this hot room, doesn't happen. It allows us to do load shedding. It allows, which means I'm basically taking and saying, I don't need to heat this space because it's unoccupied, so I'm going to shed that load, thus decreasing the amount of energy necessary to heat other areas of the building. So those are all pieces that we put into play with these energy management systems. And I think one of the things that people are gonna be interested in is we're looking at 50 kW of solar photovoltaic system on the roof. We're basically capturing energy through the sun and actually providing electricity to our facility. So that's obviously a really good, you're looking at greenhouse gas reductions, you're looking at not consuming as much energy off the grid, so on and so forth. So there's a ton of really, really good things that can happen. Sunrise Center we talked about yesterday a little bit, so I'm looking at putting LED lighting and lighting controls in that particular building. And one of the things we did notice in that building is it's very leaky. And I should also mention that Town Hall also includes insulation and envelope sealing. Insulation and air sealing at the Sunrise Center is part of these ESCO projects. Now, you won't find that in your CIP project because the dollar cost for that is under what you'd have.
The Sunrise, that's the place next to the police station?
Yeah,
That is the place
senior
next to the
center.
police station. We have the library, LED lighting at the library, pipe insulation. So, for instance, when a lot of times in these older buildings, the pipe was wrapped in asbestos. Well, the asbestos piping insulation was removed. The problem is that now you're not keeping the heat in the pipe to the client that's being delivered to, you're letting it dissipate into the space that you don't want to heat. So you actually diminish the capacity. By putting insulation back on it, you take the heat from where you want it, or where you're making it, to where you want it, instead of losing it in the transference of it. We're also looking at energy management controls for the library. The biggest area that we're actually looking at for the most amount of work is actually the Public Works and Fire Station. Again, we're also looking at LED lighting there. We're looking at energy management controls there. We're looking at taking all of the gas-fired heaters that are in the garage where they park the vehicles. They're currently standard gas-fired appliances, and they'll be moved to condensing, high-efficiency gas-fired appliances with interlocking controls that actually shut them down if the doors are opened, so that we're not pumping heat to the outside. Pipe insulation also in that facility. A new roof, we talked about that yesterday's meeting. The roof is well, not very good. It is in, those items are in your CIP because of the dollar cost. The roof insulation, because of all the leaks, is completely shot. So we don't have the heating or R value that we want to be able to keep that heat into the building. So we're now allowing more heat to go out of the building. So we're looking at that.
The Public Works?
This is Public Works and the fire station.
Right, but the ESCO project, the related things, is really energy management, is it not?
It's not just energy management. In this particular case, we're going to be able to generate enough savings in putting in lighting and everything to be able to replace the roof. But I have to, where I get some energy savings out of that is by putting new insulation. But I have to replace the roof anyways because of the condition of the existing roof. So it's a plus that I can get it under energy by putting insulation, and the fact that I want to put in 325 kW of solar photovoltaic panels, with the majority of those being located on that roof. And I can't just put them on the roof without replacing the roof. So I'm looking at some pretty substantial panels on the Public Works garage.
So is this a grant, not a grant, I don't know if we use the right word, but we put so much money in, we save it in the long run, or is it?
As Russ explained yesterday, an ESCO is, and I think the easiest way to explain it to people is a financing mechanism without impact to the taxpayers.
Okay.
And so how it works is, we have a company that comes in and says, I can do all of this work and guarantee you a dollar amount savings annually. And that money that you would pay for electricity, water, gas, heating oil, that reduction in that cost is now used to pay the payment that you would have for an equipment lease. So you're not increasing your operating budgets. it's a net zero impact to taxpayers, but you're getting all of these repairs done. Now, typically how these work is, for instance, our projections right now is a 17-year payback. Okay, so over a 17-year period, that energy savings will be going to pay for the cost. After 17 years, which we'd do a 20-year, potentially a 20-year, and I have to be careful because none of this has been approved, a 20-year financing mechanism. Year 18, 19, and 20, we've already paid back our energy savings, so that money actually gets really realized back to us.
Yeah.
These equipment pieces that we're looking at have life cycles of 25 to 30 years. So once you get past, you've finished your payment cycle, all of that savings that you have going forward comes right back to the community.
Yeah,
Okay, I got it.
a couple things, just what I'm trying also to educate myself and others on is repairing the roof is not part of us paying the energy company doing this to repair our roof. That's part of getting energy efficient, but we're not paying for equipment, quote unquote. We may pay for the solar panels to be put on.
No, we're actually, as part of this, the savings generated through all of the changes pays for the roof.
Understand, but we're not having that in the lease.
Yep, it's all part of the package.
So the roof repair is considered part of what we have to pay back through the energy contract?
And the energy contract actually pays the cost of the roof by the savings. Keeping in mind, for instance, one of the big savings is not only you got water infiltration coming into that building, but you have the insulation, which is now wet, which means you've diminished its insulating value, thus you lose more heat out the roof. That savings by putting a new roof on and new insulation, which is included in that scope, has a payback.
And I thought the financing period, I thought that they would take what they felt comfortable with the energy savings would be. The energy savings could be more. So let's say you're spending $100,000 on electricity, and they say, by these projects, we guarantee you a $30,000 savings a year. And here's what you load into the cost of all that equipment and roofs and everything to get that accomplished. You may actually save, if you're under 30, we have an issue that there should be some guarantees that they promise us at least 30.
When we enter into these agreements, they guarantee a certain return on energy savings. If they do not meet that return, then it's their responsibility to make up the difference in the cost. Now, granted, there's caveats to that. If we put an addition on the building, for instance, we're increasing the footprint, they're not going to be able to guarantee the same energy consumption costs because of the fact that we added to a building.
And vice versa, though, if we save more money than
That comes back to
expected,
us.
that comes back to us
does.
immediately. So I'm just trying to say, in addition to waiting that 17 years, because that's the break-even point on how much you paid them, that should be equal to your cost savings over that 17 years.
Most energy contracting companies will not figure 100%. They don't, because the risk is
Too
there.
risky.
They're using 80 to 85% for their guarantee factor. So if you're actually able to save 90%, you may be 5 to 10% additional energy savings above what the guarantee was, which is really just right back, it's directly in savings to the community.
Right, so the theory would be if I had 100,000 in energy costs, the plan was to save 30. I would still budget the 100 next year.
Correct.
30 of which would pay the guy who provided the energy savings. If at the end of the year, we spent 70, everything is perfect according to plan. If we only spent 60 and we found out, gee, we had another 10,000 in savings, it doesn't go to the energy provider.
It does
who
not.
provided the equipment. That means now you can lower your operating budget and get a little early benefit from getting.
I mean, it's all kinds of things. I know places have prepaid their obligation down, so.
Have you met with the
Energy Committee to review your recommendations with them?
We-
Tony Weinstein has a committee she's working.
Yeah, I've
With,
actually
and I
met with
think
that
this is-
committee before, and they're very interested in what's going on with this. As I
He has his own
mentioned,
committee too, which-
what's that?
I said you have your own committee too, right?
Yeah.
That was me and,
So
Could this go in
essentially
as-
what happens is
Because I know
that
Tony is interested in working on some of these issues.
she
and
is,
bringing them
and,
to the council for
and I've,
consideration.
we've met several times on these. Right now, this is projections. I'm hoping in the next week to have this tidied up to an actual what we can do, tidied down. And what the paybacks look like, durations, all of those kind of figures which are being worked on now, and the guarantee that we can get. That being said, it's, once we have that, then there's decisions that have to be made by town council and other interested parties to move forward with that, or choose not to move forward. It may be that decision too.
are these just town-related and not school-related? There's no school?
This one we're discussing right now is strictly the town side. There's another whole piece that's a school side. So for instance, the lighting in the elementary school, which is not being touched as part of the renovations to the elementary, has a very good payback. So we're gonna be looking at those. I've already got them working on those projections so that we can come back to the school side and say, if we do these projects, the savings is this. Now, especially with lighting, lighting has very quick paybacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the issues we faced in developing the school plan and everything like that was that since we're doing an ad reno, especially the ad portion, bringing the energy savings in at that time was almost an impossible task, because how could you project what you're gonna save if you're increasing space? Then your history of what you spent, okay, 100,000, now you're increasing space by 40%, your expenses are probably gonna go up, so how can an energy saving place track? You're doing it on non-related to the ad reno
Correct.
projects.
Yep.
So you've taken that out of the.
Can I have a word edgewise here, please?
Okay, sure.
Will this go in as a package, all these facilities, the town hall, you know, the library, the public works, the
Yes,
Sunrise Center?
it'll be a package.
And not just piecemeal?
I'm gonna approach it as a package.
Okay.
What happens from there is really the council's decision if they wanna piecemeal it or if they want to do something. The hard part with piecemealing it is, to
You
be
know-
honest with you, you don't get the value of the
Right.
whole package at once, so it could cost you more.
So would this be a town council decision, or does it have to go out to the voters in March?
So it's gonna depend on what this final looks like. If we have to put cash down, which sometimes happens because you can't get the full savings, then that could become a warrant article depending on what the dollar amount is that is
Yeah.
necessary.
Okay.
It also could come out of your current CIP funds, depending on what the dollar amount is.
Okay.
And that's a decision that the council has to make as we go forward. I'll present the plan and we'll go from there, but there is that items.
So
Sounds
you're gonna
good.
be presenting this to the council in October?
I'm hoping so.
Okay, but you have some projects listed here in the CIP that would come under that program.
There's
what you're
quite a
saying.
few of them, and I will identify as we go through some of these.
Okay.
The hard part is that I still have to put them in our CIP, because if something doesn't happen,
Yeah.
still got to deal with some of these issues.
Right, okay, good.
So, I think, is it 46, our first page?
Yeah, the first page is 46, and it's the Public Works roof replacement.
And this is one of them when we're talking about replacing the public work
Right.
roof.
Right,
This
Okay.
would be one of those ones that's got the potential to be in that ESCO.
yeah.
I think we've already kind of talked heavily about the condition of said roof.
Yeah. Bad.
Right, and you have on some sheets ESCO funding and other, is this one we should put ESCO funding as a
Yeah, I don't-
possible?
Just think,
The
I don't
the
see
reason
that
that I
on
didn't put this one in ESCO funding is because at the time when we make these, I don't know if I can get that piece in it. Other pieces, I have a much better idea that I'm gonna be able to put them into it.
How about
So
if we
the
just-
roof looks right now on paper, but I've gotta finish, and I'm trying to be very cautious. I don't
Can we
have
just say
the final
something like-
details.
Could we, could be a potential
Potential, yeah.
project
It could be, yes.
under that
When we do
program.
ESCO
ESCO.
potential versus ESCO,
Let's go
Or it's
through
all
the list
potential.
and see what he says.
Yep.
Okay,
If
so
you look at
could-
page
potentially.
47, you'll notice 47, I did have listed as ESCO funding.
Right.
The
Okay.
reason that is as ESCO funding is because I don't see us doing any other upgrades to that facility without having those abilities to have ESCO funding.
All right. So, going back to page 46, do we have any questions on that?
No,
I didn't hear.
Page 46.
Yes.
the roof.
Anything else on the roof that I'm going to add to the sheet here could potentially be a
Yeah,
project?
I don't have anything else to add to that, other than
Okay.
it is a hot issue regardless of the ESCO or not. It's something we do need to deal with.
It's been on the CIP for the last 7 years, maybe? It's-
It is in bad
it's-
shape.
It's
So
in bad shape.
can they
and
get
needs
through
to
the
be
next winter?
Addressed.
Is this also?
This winter, yes. I've done some work to the roof to try to get it through the winter, fixed a bunch of the rust holes and things like that.
So it's been kind of on a,
Oh, it's been there. A lot of this
Patch
stuff
up.
has been.
Patch up.
yeah.
I'm
patch.
putting Bondo on a car.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you also
We have a
including
question.
the insulation,
Yeah.
replacing insulation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
okay.
Um,
And that's under urgent, we have that.
that is
form.
an urgent.
Okay,
The next one is that potential ESCO through energy management savings and HVAC upgrades, and as we mentioned in that ESCO I talked about, that's there.
so again, that could, definitely would be a ESCO project?
That would be,
or-
if we're gonna do it, that's an ESCO project.
All right, we'll identify it as such.
Yeah.
Item 48, or page 48, excuse me, is continuing on with our projects that we do throughout the community, is increasing our access and surveillance systems. We're looking, not this fiscal year, but the next fiscal year, to target that particular facility for that.
And that includes fire department too.
This is fire and public works.
And
It does say that in the description.
Description.
Okay, gotcha.
But then down, commence FY 1920.
Oop.
So you
So it
need
should be 2021.
2021.
and this has.
The danger of reusing the same page over and over again.
Right here, this also has an other ESCO funding where this wouldn't be an ESCO funding.
This is not an ESCO funding.
Okay.
You notice there's no dollar value there.
No, I understand, but on some of the pages, like, when you talked about Beach Street building improvements, I thought you said that was a potential ESCO.
Nope,
Okay.
nope. Beach Street, unfortunately, is not enough return because we just don't use it enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember him saying that yesterday. 49?
49 is the parking lot at the rec center. It is in bad shape. It also puts out that, as we've talked quite a bit about our MS4 programs, this is also a candidate where we can put pervious surfacing in as we do this project. I do have it for FY 2021, not this fiscal year.
And Greg, just to backtrack solely to the prior page where we had the D again, this was a D1, meaning desirable, because you have
yes,
it for
yes.
2021?
Not a deferred.
All
So it's
these 800,
D1
that's just for
desirable.
Yeah, or
You
That
have-
is-
You have N up there. What the?
No,
oh,
he's talking about the page prior.
Okay, sorry. Wait a minute, where am I? Got it. That's a D1 desirable.
or a D.
The 800 is that we're gonna need to continue to put
Make
money
sure
away,
it's
because it's gonna
gonna
have to
happen
be,
again, yeah.
it's gonna, yeah,
Doing
so
good.
as we need to, and that also covers, as we build that fund up for that area, sealing cracks and things like that, so we can extend the life of this as long as possible, so we don't have to do it again. You'll notice that's an N as a necessity, but I did push it out a year knowing that I could get through this fiscal year coming. Maybe some patching here and there, but I don't see that as, it is a necessity, but it's not something that is a dire need.
Greg, a question. We could use the enterprise revolving funds or some of them to do this parking lot just like
I would,
Amy
yes,
said.
I think that, we can't use impact fees, but we can use, enterprise fees for that.
Do you want to change the funding source? to
No, I don't know. I'm just saying I want to be consistent, and there should be a policy that we have in town about what excess money in an enterprise fund, if that's what this is, can
I
be
have it
used
as a
for.
capital expenditure, a capital project, because I look at it as a capital. The enterprise is really more controlled through Amy's department, not necessarily mine, so,
Right, and that's why I'm saying, when we first started this, this was just to break even and not have programs costing the town money. We've achieved
Right,
that
yeah, that they're
over
fees.
that.
Yeah.
So now we're generating, and we should have a policy that says, not just someone who's at the department level, but here's a policy that says 50% of the excess goes to capital, 50% can be used for other projects? Or is there a policy that's necessary, or what's the
That's a
approval
town
process?
council.
yeah, that's a whole
issue.
different
I'm just
level of
bringing up-
conversation.
Yeah, it's a process question
Absolutely.
of how she spends the money.
50 is one we talked about yesterday. Also, you'll notice I put that out as 13,000 a year over a multiple period. It is a $78,000 cost. I look at us doing that in pieces, not necessarily all at once.
Yeah.
But it is a $78,000 cost over that life. It's in rough shape. It needs work. It really does. First thing is the roof. The roof is really at it.
Looks like all the roofs have
I
had.
didn't even know they had bathroom facilities there.
What's that?
The siding was a mess too,
This, we have a lot of rot with the siding.
so how can you put a new roof on rotting siding?
Well, because we're talking siding, not roof.
I know, but
Yeah, but you don't want to,
Oh, no,
That's a-
You have to do it all
the
at the same
structural
time.
is not the siding. The siding is not structural.
she's good. She's a resident, she can speak.
So, but it is rough.
Yeah.
And I would agree.
Don't take that.
No, this is good.
She's very sharp. Very
Get it, girl,
astute.
get it.
Thank you.
And so just
Susan,
as everything else,
for
if
your
this is a rec thing,
comments.
the enterprise fund may or may not be a funding.
Well,
source.
and here goes another issue. This particular building is on the school property.
Again,
So, but it's managed by the rec department.
I wish Roseanne was going to take you out of the table.
Right. So,
Did I insult
I,
somebody?
that's one of those slippery slopes we don't know I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
She is.
Is it responsibility of the school, is it responsibility of town, but there is an agreement that the rec department and the town would maintain those facilities. So,
That's right.
I put that there.
Okay.
The next one is, page 51, and that is the Stone Museum. And this one here, is actually an interior piece for access to the second floor, ADA improvements, doing some carrying beam work to allow for those improvements. It's about $64,600. As you can see, I've kind of staged it out over a period of time for that work, intentionally, because I know that the scope of work to do it all at once would be very impactful to their operation.
You have it in 19 and 20 and a D. Is this a deferrable or?
This is a desirable.
Okay.
Is it something that's mandatory under ADA?
We're not, under
Well,
the
I'm just
ADA,
trying
as
to-
you know how the ADA laws work,
Well, it needs to be
there are
done.
pieces that we should be doing or required to do, such as ramp access, but because it is a historic facility, there is also areas within the ADA that say we do not have to make those changes because it would impact the historical preservation of the building. So, the ADA laws and preservation are very, very detailed, very, very, it's not a simple cut and dry, unfortunately. It's not like if we were renovating a school where we have to meet all of the ADA requirements.
Right. Are you here for,
Facilities, I told
No, the facilities meeting has, I was just notified about 4 hours ago that it's postponed till next Tuesday.
Oh, I'll write it on my calendar.
Sorry, it was just done today, so I don't know if they notified the
Well, I
abutters.
just got home from taking my aunt to the health insurance seminar, so,
I hope it went well.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Same time?
5 o'clock, yes.
Thank you.
I believe so, yes.
I think it may be 6, but I'll check with, or our meeting may be 6.
There's another meeting at
If
6
we need
too.
it, yeah, that's, okay.
So we'd like keeping track.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So those laws regarding ADA access and historic preservation are a lot of work to figure out what is and is not. So, the ramp is an easy one to put in.
Yeah.
But the chair, lift is not, and there's areas that say we don't necessarily have to because of these are preservation issues, and so it's a lot to what you're gonna do, yes.
I just wanted to point out the Governor's Commission on Disability has a accessibility coordinator in Concord, and if you have questions along these lines, you can contact them, and they will do plan reviews, they'll provide assistance to you, and can help you with those intricate
And
negotiations
then
with
you
the
have to call preservation
State Preservation Office.
office
But
and
I-
let them fight it out.
Because there's two different entities that actually,
It's pretty much how it
Have you been
works.
engaged in these fights?
Yeah,
already?
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah.
geez.
ADA stands for.
Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And historical will tell you one thing, ADA will tell you another, and then you gotta find that happy medium that works for both.
Yeah. Tell them to go fight and let you know what happens.
Yes, go in the room, whoever comes out wins.
Yeah.
The next one, 53, is Town Hall.
Wait a minute, 52,
52
sorry.
Town hall generator?
generator.
Why is am I out of my own order here? Hold on, I got it someplace. 52, sorry. I had it stuck in the, back. 52 is a generator. I'm saying that we should do it in 21, 22. It is an asset protection. So if we do lose power in this building for an extended period of time, there's several issues that can arise. The servers go down. So the town side servers are not operational. Some of the school side servers are not operational. Obviously, we're not heating the building, so if this happens in the winter, then we're talking issues such as freezing pipes and splitting pipes. So we do leave our facility here unprotected.
You have this starting in 1920, though.
No, I have a 2021. I have the funding being started in 1920. In other words, to
Starts
put the
this year.
funds, start to put the funds away.
Oh, okay. But we're only putting away 100,000. Oh, because the cost is 98. but the-
98.5.
I got you, okay.
What's the 1100?
The 1100 is an ongoing maintenance program for that particular device.
Okay.
Does this have any relation to a potential ESCO thing or not?
It doesn't. Unfortunately, it doesn't because I can't get enough money in the funding formulas to put it in. And number two, I don't have any direct energy.
Cost today, maybe.
Yeah,
So-
it's a pure cost. So the next one should be 53.
Yeah.
Now that I can count. 53 is again Town Hall. This is building improvements. It's 72,350. As you'll notice, I have again also broken that down over multiple years with a starting time of 2023. We will need to be doing brick cleaning, repointing, and fixing of cracks, parking lots as we go forward. It is a need. It's a necessity to protect the physical structure. So I look at it as we need to plan on getting that money put aside to be able to do this work. Again, these are all asset protections. It's a grand old building. We need to protect it. The next one, or page 54, again, I learned how to count, didn't earlier. If you'll notice, that is ESCO contracting. That is the heating, air conditioning systems in this building. As you can see, I do have a price on that of $411,289. The heating systems in this building, the cooling systems, are well past their life expectancy. Now I can hear it.
No, but these units here,
That's brand new, but.
Those are
Air
new, but those are not
conditioning
even
is
in my
Those are the
concern
res-
area.
Those are residential.
They
No, I
are
know.
residential, and
would those
It's
be
not even-
eliminated with this project?
actually, I'm going to leave them in place because it doesn't cost me a thing to leave them in place, and they function. They are residential. They were not what I'd call. I won't. The installation practices was not wonderful, but they're functional. The big issue here is the existing boilers, as well as the existing air handlers and cooling systems, and the fact that we have zero control system. So right now, how the heating system runs is the pump turns on and runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and maintains the loop water temperature at whatever the threshold is set downstairs. So this time of year, the pump's actually gone right now, so I can't even run the heating system because I need to put money in it.
That's why you're so cold.
That's why you're so cold, yes. And I'm trying to avoid by hopefully getting this other thing operating. The system right now, and Diane will attest to this, we can either freeze you out of a room, sweat you out of a room, have you open the windows in the middle of winter, run a circulator 24 hours a day, pump 180-degree water constantly, even if you don't need it. And that's how the system works. I have no control over it. I do my best to maintain it as best as I can, but it is a hodgepodge of systems that were cobbled together, and it functions, but at a high energy cost and not comfortable. It's not a comfortable environment. I can tell you my first office I got here, middle of winter, sun pours in, it is 90 degrees in that office in the middle of winter. I have to open the windows. Because the office that's controlling the cooling is 60 degrees, so it's not calling. And we don't have any zone control. Diane will tell you I've done a whole lot to try to help her out because her office has been an absolute nightmare of trying to keep it comfortable. I think we did a little bit better this winter, but it got kind of creative work to do it. So it is band-aided, wire-tied, baling wire, and any other analogy you want to use is what we have for our systems in here.
And though this may not be in the current proposal you have for ESCO, it's ESCO.
This is in the ESCO.
Okay.
And it is listed as ESCO. If the ESCO doesn't happen, I will have to do some work. It will not hit that $50,000 threshold, but it is a Band-Aid to get it to operate.
What about window replacements? I know
The
many
hard
years
part
ago,
with
we had a-
windows-
We had an energy committee that wanted to replace the windows to a more efficient brand.
And
what's your take on all that?
I can tell you, replacing windows has such a long payback period that you can't get the energy savings. If I replace the windows here and try to do it with energy savings, I'm talking 40 to 50 years of energy savings to be able to cover the cost of the windows. And at that point, you've already had to replace the windows since that. So windows do not have a payback unless it's extreme. And these are not extreme. They're not great. They're not bad, though. I've seen a lot worse.
Be nice if you could open them.
That is a lubrication issue, and I've got several of them working by lubricating them.
And I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I
Oh,
can't open
I
them.
get it.
I have arthritis, I can't open the windows.
Well, that's heavy, yeah.
But the windows are not great, but they don't leak badly, and to try to get them in an ESCO, I can't pay for them that way. The best thing that I would suggest is looking at a capital plan to do windows over a given period of time. Do, 10 windows here and 10 windows there and 10 windows here. But realize there is no money payback to it.
Okay, thank you.
55. This facade was actually on last year's budget. We have not done it. I bring it forward because I am not 100% sure that it's going to get done this year. I don't know that, and I'm hesitating to spend some of the funds that are in my capital fund right now because I don't know where I'm going to land with the heating plant for this building. And those funds may have to be shifted to be able to patch the system enough to get it running for the rest of the season, for this
But
heating season.
the U as urgent,
It is urgent because all it's
It's gonna
doing is
fall
rusting
down.
out more.
Somebody's gonna get.
I do have a price recently to do repairs to that, put new tin work, paint it and everything. It actually came in a lot less, so I may be able to figure out, I still got some pieces to work on. Whether or not I can get it in there and still have, if I don't get the ESCO money going for the heating plants here, do I have the funds to be able to fix the heating systems here? To get them running.
This is a sidebar. In the picture,
Mhm.
what's that thing with the cinder blocks?
That's an antenna.
Antenna for what?
I believe that one is part of the police system, but I'm not 100% sure.
It doesn't look terribly secure.
Oh, that won't go anywhere. That's got a big metal base it sits on with rubber pads
like
underneath
the
that.
old rabbits we used to have on TVs in the old days.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We don't have the tin, I did take the tin foil off, no.
We're dating ourselves.
That's okay.
There's been chatter about putting solar
Tinfoil,
panels up there
is
as
that
well.
the?
If you remember our earlier
It's got
discussion,
tinfoil.
I'm looking at putting solar
I know
panels
it.
on this roof as part of our ESCO project.
This is twice.
I have to recertify the roof to do that. And so a company has to come in and re-strip it and redo the roof, but we're not taking the roof off, we're gonna be able to recertify it. And let's see, the next one,
It's a repeat, isn't it?
56.
Did we just do that?
Nope, this is the outside.
Wait a minute.
We have an
Sure?
inside and we have an outside.
Same picture, it's just a
same
different.
I used the same picture twice.
Conservative.
Sorry.
Oh,
No,
okay.
mine is exactly this.
Is it the same? Yeah, I think there's a
Did it get
there's
printed
another one.
twice?
It's all good.
Well, you said there were two for the
Access to
stone.
the building. I have,
The
Museum.
one's an interior, one's an exterior.
well,
Okay,
I
I
got
guess
two
I don't
exteriors.
have the,
Did it get printed twice of the same one?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have the interior one, so.
yeah.
if you
So
could get
it's,
that.
I used the exact same picture
want the
twice, so that could be
interior?
where it got confused.
You get it.
That was part of the original.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, I have,
Wait a minute.
I have 51, which is what you just gave me.
And that's the interior.
51,
Yeah, but it says,
Yeah.
okay, the text is the same.
It's just the
Okay.
project title, yeah.
So I have interior and exterior work to do on that building. We talked about this yesterday. That
Yeah.
the stonework
Yeah.
needs to be reworked and repaired with the proper materials so that we don't get into a continued deterioration of the facility.
Stonework needs to be repaired. We need to have a new description, Greg.
There is one that has that description.
Okay.
You should have that in that batch that I sent you.
this is still on. Did we move off the stone museum?
No, we're still in the,
Stone museum.
but we're
you
looking
don't-
at the
you need-
interior now,
you don't
not
have
the.
No, we did the
Right.
interior earlier.
We don't have the exterior page.
Well, the first page we did, 51, said Stone Museum. The second page that had one crossed out with a 56 says interior upgrades.
Right, and this is interior also.
They have the same
The
numbers.
51, no, it's a different number. 56 is the interior.
Just the same picture.
We have the
And
same
that's-
picture and the same dollar amount,
Yeah.
even though the
The-
project type, what Judy's point is, I think,
I think it got misprinted twice is I think what happened because they looked the same.
everything is the same except
for
the
the project
project title.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Because we got 64.6
Yeah, just,
and 64.6, and this
Oh,
is interior.
right, and what does this say?
Are the numbers the same?
There is chairlift, I gotta move a beam, I've
see
gotta
that
put a
in your
small
text?
transition in.
Are the numbers the same, though, on the two
No.
pages?
No,
No,
Okay, so it
So it
looks
needs to
like,
be corrected.
duplicate of the first page.
except for the title.
I'm opening it right now.
Okay.
Interior.
So the exterior one, which says Stone Museum, is 92,500.
Okay, we don't have that one.
That's
Okay.
right, so I was
Yeah.
trying to tell you.
We have two interiors.
Yep, it's, like I said, it has the exact same picture. It says repairs to grout to stonework around the entire building, proper mortar materials necessary to repair, asset protection. That was in my original package.
Okay.
Well, we need the exterior, the one with the different language and the different dollar versus 64.6, which
Right.
you're saying, yes, there is a page.
Yeah, I'm sending it to Diane right now.
It's page
96,000.
56, and we'll get it straightened out.
That one was part of, I think probably what happened is because it's the same picture, you got confused on what it looked like.
A lot of them did.
What's that?
A lot of them did for that reason.
I like using the same picture.
So it's 96,000.
So
Okay.
the interior grading
92, I thought.
is still scheduled for 24, 25.
Correct. And then the next one is 57, which doesn't have a picture mix up, but wasn't in the package from yesterday. I grabbed a nice unique picture of our fire rescue. And this is the fire department bunkhouse and facilities. And if you remember, Rick has put this request in multiple years.
Yep.
And this is to complete the bunkhouse, locker rooms, shower facilities, and emergency operation centers, the second floor at the fire station. So it cost $275,000. You can see that I've placed it so that it does say to be determined on what year. I do show that we need to put away money to be able to do this. But I'm not 100% sure which year it's gonna happen in. I put it down as a necessity based on my conversations with the fire chief and his needs to have additional space, as well as he does not have sleeping facilities, which limits his ability to get people to do, for instance, paramedic coverage that may live further away, that can stay the night here instead of being having to drive here during a night coverage. And I think that was my last one.
That was your last one.
Squash and one This picture just looks like it's truncated somehow, that it's got squat, like the old TV sets that made people 2 feet
I don't know,
high, 4 feet
I
wide.
thought I captured it well.
I've gotta go fry some chimichangas, everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that
Kurt.
sounds like a good meal. Right?
That's,
And it's Taco Tuesday.
is that where you work,
Yes,
Margaritas?
one of my many
And your name is Trevor?
hobbies and jobs, yes.
Okay. The one down in
And
Strata?
our next meeting, just
Strata?
as Trevor's
Do
going,
you
is
know-
Monday,
Do you
right?
know a Robert that works there? Or Bob?
Last name,
Okay.
Never mind. We'll talk another
11
time.
years, a lot of people. Sorry. And we're having
He
a
lives here in
mass,
Newmarket.
a mass exodus as well.
Anyway,
I'm a
we'll
doctor,
talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, enjoy the rest of your trip.
Bye, thank you, Trevor.
Next year, I won't use the same pictures twice.
Yeah.
Well, that kid's picture would have a lot of play with a lot of us, I think, if we saw that.
I like that picture.
Just go up and take some big picture of some of our kids.
You have to have a written permission to use that.
That's true.
Well, you wanted to
So I
talk
take it off
something
the
about
internet, which,
this- these
the
guys.
images on the internet,
Yeah,
which
that's true.
are already released,
Yeah, just
so I don't have to
mention
go
it.
through.
But we do have diversity up there.
We do, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have them sectioned off so we know about that was all. What it is.
Okay,
You wanna reorganize
so our
them?
next meeting is on Monday.
Yes.
Monday
I will
at
do my best to get a
4.
spreadsheet together
5
and
p.m.
to get,
or
these updated.
4 to 6.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, next week is Monday, Tuesday,
Where's my
possibly
calendar?
Wednesday, 4 to 6.
And we may not do, if we do Tuesday, we're not gonna do Wednesday and vice versa.
I thought Monday was, I'm wrong.
We changed it
I'm sorry,
because of Al's.
I was in October.
Oh,
I don't know how I got to October,
please don't
but
say that.
We have Monday 4 to 6, we have Tuesday 4 to 6,
And maybe.
except we just had a building
they are on my
committee.
calendar.
We had
And
a
I have a
building-
Wednesday 6 to 10. That's what it says.
It
No,
does
we're not doing
not.
Wednesday, 6 to 10.
That's the automatic one that I got.
Susan, I look to you
Booked
to
by the
be our
town.
resident, 4 to 6 Monday and Tuesday? Because I
Yes.
had,
Well, 4 to
Well, if
6
we need
Monday,
it.
If we finish,
okay,
Then we're done.
right, but it was 4 to 6 on
It was
Tuesday
4
if
to
we
6.
needed it.
if
Right.
we needed any.
And then if we
Wednesday,
need Wednesday, we'll be 4 to 6 again.
Okay, because I think
No, I
the
don't think,
building
it's either
committee
Tuesday
just
or Wednesday.
changed its
We don't,
meeting, Greg, that you and I have to go to the next Tuesday at 5.
I know, and I think that's gonna be an interesting thing on how we time, and that's what I said in my note earlier, is
ask them.
I'm gonna have to run between two different areas, that's all.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm hoping
reason I
we
said
either don't
Tuesday
need
and not
Tuesday or we
Wednesday.
can finish in an hour or less.
Oh, it
if
turns
we
out
need Tuesday.
Monday is okay.
Yeah, because Tuesday.
If we meet at
I
4,
have,
if we meet in the
kinda need to
evening,
be
it
both,
conflicts.
at both.
Right.
Tuesday is a real must because it's,
Right.
Split yourself.
Or the
I've done
budget.
that. I've had school board meetings and town council meetings at the same time and run between the spaces, literally.
Monday is,
Oh, okay. Well, he's fine. Anytime is fine.
Okay, so we're 4 to 6 Monday and 4 to 6 Tuesday if we need it, and Greg and I have something at 5 o'clock on Tuesday for the building committee, so
Oh,
he or we both need to be finished
You
by
wanna
5.
change
We
it
may
to
be
Wednesday?
bouncing between the two.
you want to change it to Wednesday? I
Uh,
think we can do it
Where's my calendar?
as the fallback date.
Well, we do go Tuesday. If we can do it in an hour, so they
Monday.
can get out of here, great.
Monday.
And they can get out of here and we come back on Wednesday.
Okay,
And
so,
finish up.
so Tuesday's 4 to 5.
So, 5 to 7 I have as a building committee meeting.
Right.
And then we have our meeting from 6 to, well, I've got one that says 6 to 10, and I
I
got
have a
another.
meeting at 6:30. Maybe you have the dam? We're meeting with the McAllen Dam people.
I got that one too. What day is that one? That's not,
I
that's
can't be in two
Should we
places at
should we
once.
adjourn this?
Let's
or-
not say Monday. Can we just say Tuesday and Wednesday? Would that work for you guys?
Tuesday's the problem day.
Tuesday's the problem then. for Greg.
Monday's the better.
I can't do it Monday. I have a block of meetings. I have one at 6:30 that's not gonna,
You'd have to run too then.
right,
Well, if we did it 4 to 6, you're saying,
not on Monday.
okay.
Can't do
What
it.
if, what about starting earlier? I don't know if that's an option.
We have meetings scheduled back to back from 1:30 to 6:30 for the McAllen Dam on the 24th.
Oh, that's right, we do.
And Greg,
I have to be
we
there
would
for
like
those.
you to be there.
Yeah, I don't have much of a choice.
So,
That's the,
4 to 5.
that's on the 24th.
I could do 4 to, but we can't do 4 to 6.
Can't do 4 to 6, they have to go to building.
Can we do 3 to 5?
3 to 5.
Yeah, either that or
3
let's
to
do it
5.
Wednesday,
Tuesday, 3 to
because
5.
having an hour just to go over this is, I hate to get
Right.
it
Yeah,
for a short time.
Tuesday 3 to 5,
And then Wednesday
and then Wednesday 4 to 6.
Why can't I get
as a
it to change?
fallback.
Okay, let me just make sure I get this right in my computer, because I have we have a damn meeting from 1:30 to
7
on Monday.
on Monday.
And then
Might
we're
be
showing,
later
we
than
also
7.
show the CIP meeting at 4 to 6, which is not gonna be able to
Yeah,
happen.
It's not
so
gonna
I'm gonna
happen.
take that
Yeah,
off.
So let's
Cancel
take
that.
that off.
Oh, I
have
can't,
too
because
many
it's
things
generated
on-
by Wendy.
Scheduling here.
Yep.
Okay, so Tuesday 3 to 5, Wednesday 4 to 6. That's
Okay,
what I
question.
think we've agreed to.
Yeah, the only
But
thing
that's
I
good.
would end up saying, and I don't know my calendar, I have to look at it, I'll carry it with me, is if we said we can do this in 3 hours on Tuesday, if we
Then-
do it 2 to 5, now that we're changing things around, does 2 to 5 give us time to get it done in one day and not have to recall on Wednesday.
So
So-
Tuesday, I'm just trying to make sure I get this right, because I live by my calendar, unfortunately. Because it's just like Diane, there's so many meetings if I don't. So Diane and I are elsewhere on Monday. Tuesday, we're gonna have a CIP meeting from,
Right now, it was been noted at 3 to 5.
okay,
It
that's,
has been suggested that we change it to 2 to 5 and try to
I'm okay with that.
get through the whole thing.
Right,
You okay with it?
I'm
and
okay
then
with that.
Wednesday's fallback day.
Susan and Diane, you're okay
Yep.
with that? Okay,
Okay,
and
so
then
now
let's
I'm like-
use Wednesday as the possible,
Just in case.
and if I just shot myself in the foot when I go home and find
So-
out I have 6 doctor's appointments, I'll let you know.
So Russ, you and I
Cancel it.
then
Cut you
at
some slack.
5
Yeah,
have the building committee meeting.
next Tuesday is this Tuesday, except they moved the meeting to
Well,
next
that's what-
Tuesday. Yes,
Right.
we
Right.
have back-to-back 3-hour meetings.
Correct.
So then you'll be
That's
on
fine.
5 to
Actually,
8.
Russ, I start my first meeting at 8 AM and I don't stop.
Yeah, but I don't get paid. So I can
Oh,
skip a
poor
few minutes
you.
every
You're
once in a while.
doing
We
this
work
for
for
your,
free.
Wait a minute, Diane, are we getting paid?
Jeez,
not
not
gonna
enough.
Should we officially adjourn this?
Well, wait a minute, I gotta know about Wednesday.
Wednesday's 4 to 6 as a fallback, tentative. So,
All right, so
Thank you.
the public is totally confused, but
If they ever got a notification of a meeting from
We
the
will-
system Meredith uses, it tells you the time, and then it tells you a universal time, which must be Greenwich Mean Time, because mine says the meeting's at 5 to 7, or universal time 9 to 12. Did you see that? Am I nuts, Greg, or what?
can we,
Do I have a motion from the
and
only
I
other
may
person
take you up
left
on your offer to
to
help me.
adjourn the
I
meeting?
have motion to
I'll
adjourn.
talk to Steve tomorrow.
I'll second the motion that's made by Judy to adjourn. All in favor?
Done.
2-0.